Look at us now, tip to tip.
Ooh, Jesus.
Oh.
Kombat.
Do you want a margarita?
Yes! My God! To us, doing what we love. But it's time to bang. Oh, yeah, it's Friday. I know you ain't got any shit to do. You might as well tune in to the best damn combat sports show they ever put together. We still win awards for this ish. Hey, it's Morning Combat. It's Friday, May 16th, 2025. And this is your dynamic duo in the worlds of boxing, mixed martial arts, and phallic humor. Hey, I'm Brian Campbell, the BBC with that BDE, the American Alpha AA MCO over here. And that's my co-host, L to the T from DC, who would probably look really good in a Jackson chain. It's Luke Thomas.
I don't wear jewelry. You're not a jewelry guy, are you?
Oh, I'm a piece of crap from a factory town, Luke. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
I really have a wedding band on. You know?
Yeah, that's it. I've got a wedding band and I'm good. I don't wear jewelry. Nice to see you.
I got man bracelets like every other, person these days, but that's about it. All right.
I don't have those either.
Yeah, you got ink. You got ink on there. Luke Thomas, you look freshly cut. Is everything all right in your life? You look very fit, trim, and ready to deliver today.
Yeah, amazing what a couple good nights of sleep will do for you. I feel a lot better than I did on Monday. A lot of people, by the way, I had someone on my chat beat me up about it yesterday. They're like, wow, you had one night of bad sleep and you're complaining about it. And I've tried to explain to them, no. It was actually 3 or 4 nights in a row of bad sleep that really got to me. I was on fumes, but BC, I feel recovered. I've had a couple really good nights actually, and I feel ready for today.
People love when you complain about first world issues, Luke. They love that.
Here's the problem. The thing is, so I have 2 problems that I really have to encounter. One is that I never in my life until my 30s had allergies, and now they're overpowering. And then the other problem is, man, I just never handled my anxiety problem. And so now the problem is it's not even something serious like, oh my God, how am I going to do something big and important? It's like, oh, there was no peanut butter when I wanted to make a peanut and butter jelly sandwich, and then all of a sudden it just gets like the littlest thing makes it now uncontrollable for me. So it makes sleeping hard sometimes, man. That really fucked me up a couple nights in a row.
It reminds me of that time I regrettably played the Hasselhoff video on this show, Luke. That's where we went. And then we lost.
I think that was you played that night with Tukey hadn't let me sleep more than 2 hours in several nights.
You're like, bitch, not bitch to Tukey, to the hater out there. Bitch, I forget about 3 months. I haven't slept in 14 years. That's what you should be saying, Luke. All right.
Yeah, well, I'm better today. I feel good today.
All right, there you go. We're fired up to be here, by the way. And if you want to follow us for more, you can like this video, you can subscribe to what we do, you can hit up our social channels right there, including our extended YouTube channels. We're happy to have you here today, so please tell a friend and subscribe. Let's get off this bubble. Let's get on to the next number afterward. Also, folks, we have a great show. Looking at the recent announcements in big-time UFC pay-per-view main events coming up, IFW and beyond. We will also be previewing this Saturday's UFC Fight Night card, a welterweight tilt in the headliner that I think you have to see, and also catching up some boxeo. Do we have fan subs and dead wrongs to hit today? Do we? Let's bring in the third member of our team to ask him. He's a fantastic producer, director, and podcast host in his own right, and he likes to do this a lot. Don't speak about his dad's man bag. Hey, it's Luke Nocita. Luke, we did the fans deliver today? That's what I want to know.
They did. We got some good fan subs. We got a couple dead wrongs, nothing crazy, but we got both ready to go.
All right, there we go. How are you doing in life? I mean,
I'm doing good. I'm
doing a report. Nothing.
Doing the full card watch along for UFC Vegas 106 tomorrow. So that's the big news in this household. All right. So
and then going out on a date afterwards, or no?
No, I mean her Saturday is pretty blocked out, which is why I have the capability to do the full card. So shit happens. All right.
All right. Well, there he is, Long Island's finest, Luke N.
Do you think he actually has a girlfriend, or is it one of those things where it's like in high school, it's like, yeah, I've got a girlfriend who lives in Canada.
Like, I met her at camp. Yeah.
He goes to a different school. You guys just don't know.
Remember in the 80s and 90s, like if you tried the I have a girlfriend 2 towns away thing, 2 towns away felt like another country, right?
Yeah,
like everything was so
verify it.
Yeah.
Like even now, like when I was a kid, I moved around a bunch, you know what I mean? Like, and when you left a place in the 80s and 90s, bitch, you left a place. Like it was you might as well have just gone to a new planet. And now everything's so connected, it doesn't feel that way really at all. So it's
Yeah,
weird.
I mean, it's weird, Luke. This world is weird. Luckily, luckily our viewers have two old guys to guide them through it here. You see our new pictures on the YouTube thumbnail. We look old and high, Luke. You know what I mean? It's great. Yeah.
That's truth in advertising. Yes.
Yeah, there you go. But thank you for playing today. I hope all of you are doing well out there. It might be. Oh, Luke, one final bit of note. I thought of you heavily this morning when the news broke about the no, wow. When the news broke about the New Jersey Transit strike that could be affecting Amtrak as well and your potential commute to the studio on Monday. Are you going to be okay?
It's gonna send me to an early grave. I'm telling you,
Okay.
for a lot of reasons. One of which could be that I just rage out and then ends up being suicide by cop. I don't know. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? It could just be one of those things. But I'm trying not to think about it, BC. I really am trying not to.
Do you have a one-word reaction to Shakur Stevenson sending cop to hell or no? No.
Hey, you know what? If the Amtrak train doesn't work, I could just fly into Newark. Oh, wait.
Yeah,
wait.
Yeah, I hope you get stuck at Newark, Penn. All right, enough BS. Let's keep it going here. Topic number 1 on this Friday. Let's hit it. It is the UFC 317 International Fight Week announcement. We are a couple days removed from Dana White taking to social media and delivering what we've been waiting for. Did that main event of UFC 315 on Saturday when Bilal yielded the welterweight title to Jack Della Maddalena change the future? It seems like it did, as now officially we will have Islam Makhachev dropping or vacating or being forced to vacate the lightweight title to seek a title fight against JDM. And 40-something days away from now, June 28th, UFC 317 will officially have a vacant lightweight title bout atop the bill as Ilia Toporia welcomes former champion Do Bronx Charles Oliveira. Luke, straight up, is this the right fight to headline International Fight Week this year? We're going to get to, in the ensuing topics, the whole Islam Ilia thing, but this fight on paper, Toporia versus Oliveira, is this rightfully so to headline what we consider a major and one of the biggest fight cards of the year for UFC?
Now, it's hard to have this conversation to a degree because of the Islam factor. However, if we just take what the UFC has to do here or is electing to do as a given, and so now we have to assess our options therein, it's hard to imagine there's a lot of better options than this one. On its own terms, between Ilia and Charles Oliveira, you're going to get an absolutely sensational main event between two, literally former champions, right? A guy in Oliveira, former champion at 155, and obviously former champion at 45 in Toporia. He is obviously Toporia going for a second weight class title. Now you're adding a degree of history on top where he could now etch his name into the list of fighters who have achieved such a designation, which of course is quite minimal. On top of it, it's going to be action-packed. I think it's just hard to imagine how either of these guys is going to turn in a boring performance. And so, yeah, would it have been nice, BC, to have Jones and Aspinall? That would have been cool, but it wasn't in the cards. Again, the Islam factor we will talk about because it obviously is very, very relevant, but not doable for the present circumstances. You could have done Poatan Ankalaev 2, and we did in 2024 call upon Poatan to save us several times, which he did, and this could have been another one of those, but of course it seems like he was tired of doing that and didn't want to. And by the way, even if he was available to make that fight, BC, I'll just be honest, I would have rather have seen Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria in that main event. To me, the only two fights you could have put in front of this one, were they available, would be John versus Tom and Ilia versus Islam. Those are the only two I would have thought would have been a clearly, decidedly better choice. But given where we are, and then again, on its own terms, I love this fight. I love this fight for this card. I love this fight to kickstart the summer schedule between 317, 318, and Max and Dustin 3. And then, of course, 319, which we'll talk about as well, and DDP Khamzat. It's a tone setter for the summer. There is a bunch to like about this. But the last thing I would say, BC, is it's always going to feel like lesser than when a title in a weight class has to be handed back to the next two guys vying for it administratively. So I understand why certain fans might feel one way or the other about not necessarily being fully on board with it. But you can count me as on board with it. I think it's great, and I really can't wait for that card.
Yeah, I mean, the silver lining in a lot of ways is twofold here. One, it's a consolation prize fight, meaning it's not Ilia versus Islam, but the consolation is that we get two title fights, two that are probably going to headline pay-per-views in the next few months. And oh, by the way, this fight absolutely rules. So from a sexy summer standpoint, a white boy summer, if you will, Luke, I don't know if you will. Probably won't at all. But from that standpoint, it is just, I don't even know what that means, by the way. But from that standpoint, yeah. From that standpoint, I mean, it's great. We get one of the biggest stars. We get the number 2 pound for pound fighter, at least on my list, in Toporia, in a sexy action fight that we want. Can we show the full screen now, Long Island Luke, of UFC 317 in its totality with the co-main event of Alexandre Pantoja, a long-rumored title defense against Kai Kara France. You got Paulo Costa against Roman Kopylov. You got Dariush versus Moicano, which I don't hate. Yeah, somebody's going to take the Tora Tafa, but Luke, Brandon Royval, Manel Kopp is a main event unto itself, at least from a fight night level, a good one. And then you can go on and down. Tracy Cortez back, Hobo Kopp against Hermanson. Luke, I know that your grade in our reaction to these is always on a curve now because we're not comparing these pay-per-views to 2016 or the last time we felt UFC was UFC. It's a different era right now. I'm starting to adjust to that era so it's not just negativity every show. If we are going to grade on a curve from what they've done lately, what do you grade this pay-per-view card for June 28th?
Bare minimum A-. Bare minimum.
Whoa, A-. Yeah. I mean, okay. I was going to
just think about it.
B.
I mean,
you know B's. Luke, they're not bad, right?
Put the card up for just one more second. Let me just walk through why I think it's that way. So your main event to me is just a phenomenal main event. Your co-main, Pantoja, easily one of the most, if not the most disrespected champion, maybe in all of MMA, a guy who in the pound-for-pound rankings simply does not get his due. And Kai Kara France has earned this particular moment. Costa Kopylov should be madness. Dariush Moicano, two very, very decorated competitors who know what they're doing. Again, Tour of Tafas, whatever. But as you mentioned, Royval and Kopp, number one contender at flyweight. Hermanson is back against a guy who I think is going to be a tough out. And then Araujo and Cortez. And then probably there'll be some other fights that they add to this along the way. I mean, these are all, for the most part, again, there's a couple of other ones that you could just, put to the side. They have divisional relevancy. And a high degree of action involved. You get two titles at the top of the card. And I think both title fights, whatever else you want to say about them, it's hard to imagine in either scenario that they're not going to be action-packed. I mean, Pantoja is a goddamn Wolverine charging across the octagon. KKF can play it as cool as he wants, but that dude's going to be in his face, no question about it. And then again, as I mentioned before, just on the Royval and Kopp fight alone, just those three are all bangers. They're all bangers.
B+ for me. I'm wondering if maybe that B+ A- area, because whenever they ask me how do you want your steak, I always say, is there a spot between these 2 points that we know, like rare and medium? Give me the spot in between, Luke. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you mean medium rare?
Or no, sometimes I'm like, give me the spot in between, and then they get mad at me.
Oh, you mean like between medium rare and medium?
Yes, yes. See, I want it as close as you can get to medium without bloodying it up. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's people out there, by the way, that order it well done and then put ketchup on it.
Yeah, I mean, these are heathens who deserve to be sent to a prison in El Salvador.
One of those people is Vince McMahon. I want you to know that. One of those people.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not sure if the other prominent guy defecates in hair as well, but it's just pretty disgusting.
So it's amazing to cook the flavor out of steak and then try and put flavor back in it by pouring ketchup on top.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So even with an adjusted curve, I'm going B+. Yeah, this is a solid ass card, top to bottom right here. We have a quote from Ilia Toporia about the Oliveira fight, and he says, "I feel really sorry for Charles. Whatever is least painful for him, that's what I'll do because I like him a lot." Luke, my question really surrounds the opening odds here as we look at DraftKings. Charles Oliveira, a +275 underdog, -345 for Toporia in his debut in this division. Is that showing enough respect to Do Bronx, or is that an inevitability when we're talking about, at any weight, one of the best fighters on this planet and a guy who I don't think we've seen the best of yet?
That's weird, right? Because I definitely take Oliveira very seriously, and I think it'd be very foolish for anyone who's a Toporia supporter to think he can just, mosey on in there and win this one without really any issue. I don't buy that. I think if he's going to win it, he's going to have to earn it. But I would be surprised if Toporia lost. I would. I'd be very surprised. I think we already know his power carries. He is extremely well-rounded. There could be some scenarios that could get him in trouble. The clinch could be one of them. Obviously, on the ground could be another, to the extent that it plays out in that space. But this is as far as I'm concerned, this is Toporia's fight to lose. And I think the odds makers kind of reflect that. The other part, BC, is that listen, Oliveira 35, I believe, 2-2 in his last 4. And, he was beating up Michael Chandler real good, but then there was that 5th round rally where he got just stung a bunch of times. And I'm thinking to myself, man, Michael Chandler looked terrible against Paddy Pimblett. He's been on his last legs. And if a guy like Toporia hits you cleanly like that, you're absolutely going to take a nap. So I can understand why you're not measuring. Obviously, it deserves to be just said out loud. You're not measuring this against the high water mark of Oliveira. You're asking, where is he today? Where is he today? And where he is today is still very good, but beatable, hittable. And you're talking about a guy who is a precision hard puncher. Tough matchup for him.
It is, but and look, the stats can get worse if you lean on them, and the fact that he'll be 36 a few months after this fight. You mentioned 2-2 in his last 4, but one was against the best fighter in the world of Makhachev, and that was a fight in which Oliveira afterwards said, "Look, everything went wrong. It's an aberration. That's not me." And then he came out the next fight and stopped Dariush, and then you got a split decision loss to Sarukian. Do I recall that it could have gone either way in that fight? I mean, either way, it's very close against
it was close.
One of the very best in this division, and then you come back and you beat Chandler. I'm wondering if this guy demands a little bit more respect as the greatest finisher in UFC history, as somebody who can stop you on your feet as well as submit you out of most scenarios. And, oh, by the way, former champion, dangerous as shit. I don't know, man. I mean, we got to see Toporia at this weight class. Am I favoring him? Do I think Toporia is going to win? Yes. But we got to see it first. So this is an interesting opening line, in my opinion.
See, I mean, here's the thing. It's like everyone said all this shit about, Volk's one of the greatest featherweights of all time, if not the greatest. Max, same kind of thing. What happened there? He smashed them both. Like, I respect Oliveira. I just don't think people fully understand what they've got with Ilia Topuria. That's what I think. I think he is one of these kinds of guys who doesn't come around very often, who everybody is beatable, including him. And trust me when I say, you will watch him get beat if he sticks around long enough. No question in my mind. But I don't think it's going to be in June. I think in June, he's going to get another title, and I think he's going to do it via stoppage. Now, what I would say is, let's go to our resident DGen in Long Island. Luke, what do you think about the odds on this one? And do you understand why the odds makers have such a high opinion of Toporia?
I mean, yeah, he should definitely be the favorite. I do think they're a little wide. Like, I'm tempted to throw money on Charles Oliveira right now. Do I think he's going to win? No, but it is a 5-round fight. And that quote from Ilia is kind of telling to me. He's like, I'm going to take it easy on him, whatever's the least painful. So, like, I don't know, dude. I'm kind of feeling an over here. I'm feeling this fight going the distance. I feel like that could be plus money,
Yeah, that might be interesting. I could see it going the distance. Oliveira is nothing if not a survivor. So
let's see the quote from Charles Oliveira. I don't know if it's in response here, but he says 46 days for this belt to return where it should have never left. And Luke, we long know that the champion has, or in this case, had a name, and that is the great Do Bronx. There are legitimate questions here. Damn, do I love this matchup? But Luke, I don't think on a morning combat show, I've yet to ask you maybe an even more important question than this. La Leyenda apparently heard the criticisms of his new self-given absurd nickname and then pulled it back. It went back to Matador. So Luke, while a lot of the decisions made by Ilia are very, very, conceited and swaggy and all that, dude, he's backed it up. I disrespect him more for turning the nickname back than I do ever creating it.
No. So we can both agree La Leyenda is, and like anointing himself, that was terrible,
Yeah.
terrible. And certainly going back is also one of these things that everyone's going to be like, really, dude, what the fuck are we doing here? At the same time, El Matador never needed to be changed to begin with. It reminds me of the UFC. I lived through it when they were like, all right, we're going to try 9 p.m. pay-per-views. Now, actually, I kind of like that idea, to be honest with you, but they hated it and they went back the other way. Sometimes you got to call an audible, BC, and you got to recognize when you've made a mistake and you got to correct it. He corrected it. So he should have never done it to begin with, and it was moronic to do that. But I think this was, given what he did, it was better to go back than it was to try and just push forward on it.
All right. I mean, it's tough to get on the guy when he does absolutely continue to deliver after acting constantly like he's putting the cart before the horse. But look, I've come around. I do think he is of that ilk. I think there's a discussion to be had if he wins, how long he stays in this division, but we can certainly get to that as the show progresses. Luke, do you feel like people aren't responding positively to this? Maybe because it was telegraphed? I mean, It is a sexy ass awesome fight.
So I think that definitely plays a role here. First of all, I think most people are pretty excited about it. But, and again, trust me when I tell you, we're going to spend time talking about the Islam factor because it looms large here. We're going to get to it. Partly there's a little bit of longing for that, BC. So that's a big one. And then the second part is, to the point you raised, we kind of knew what the score was going to be for this. Or rather, I should say, depending on what happened with the UFC 315 main event, we kind of knew what we were going to get. It wasn't like a grand surprise, or it wasn't like everyone was kind of, waiting for a fight announcement, and then all of a sudden it just hits one day and you didn't exactly know who it was going to be or when it was going to come. It didn't happen in that kind of grand arrival way. This one was more of just a confirmation that had been widely telegraphed ahead of time. Nevertheless, whether by hook or by crook, what you're asking the UFC is to make the best fights they possibly can. And there is some debate about whether or not you got the very best fight you could get, but you got a very, very good one at a bare minimum. And I think that's, to me, the lens by which I'm going to look at this contest.
Yeah. And as you teased earlier on, the whole trend had been, you got an issue, call Poatan to save your card. And it seems like they did, which likely led to Poatan putting out that very cryptic tweet, then trying to walk it back and say he was hacked only for DC and everybody else, including us, to be like, yo, you're 100% lying here. But Luke, we're starting to get more of the truth about what really happened. And was the champion Ankalaev reached out to try to save this card? And was Yuri Prochazka the name they went to after Poatan said he wasn't ready? Let's show Yuri's response here. He says he declined when he was offered a fight at 317 due to his university exams coming up in June. He told that to Sports in Eastern Europe there. Luke Thomas, that would have been a hellacious action fight, but the Poatan rematch should be the next fight. So I'm personally really happy that it didn't go that direction just to try to save the card.
Yeah. Also, just based on what we're seeing here, there's like no way Poatan was hacked, right? Like there's no possible way. They asked him to fill in on short notice, and he's been doing it for literally years at this point. So he was like, no, I don't want to do that. And so they went and asked, Yuri to see if he wanted to fill in. And I think Poatan was like, well, wait a second, I'm owed the rematch. But of course, the UFC, the trains leave the station on time, whether you're on them or not. That's the way that business works. So just kind of a funny way it went. But also, like, Ankalaev versus Yuri for International Fight Week. I mean, here's the thing I want you to people to think about, BC. Everyone is thinking about the fights they didn't get, John, Tom, or Islam Ilia. And again, relative to those considerations, yeah, there is something of a downgrade here. But we also could have gotten Ankalaev Yuri, and that wouldn't be a bad fight by any stretch of the imagination, BC. I'm not saying it's bad, but I don't know if that's a suitable, on short notice, I don't know if that's a suitable International Fight Week main event.
It's not.
To me, it doesn't have what you need. Ilia bumping up a weight class against yet another fan favorite who's also a former champion. That to me seems like, given the available alternatives, clearly the best choice they could have made.
It's star power. It's an action fight. There's a lot to learn from it. It's very good booking and matchmaking. Quickly here, we have a response from Ankalaev to this whole situation. And he tweeted out, guys, is there anyone in the light heavyweight division who's willing to fight me? Because Yuri and Alex do not want to fight. It was a better decision. You're right, not to have Big Onk, in my opinion, at 317. But Luke, does this whole situation, because look, in my opinion, PFL letting Patchy Mix walk is my last straw. They don't fucking get it. They're never going to get it. You and I on our own YouTube channels went on extended rants, I'm sure, to that same degree. I felt like if they would have announced Aspinall gone for the interim title in the main or co-main event at 317, I would have felt something similar in this era of UFC. Like, if you're waiting for things to turn back around and feel a little bit like it used to, and everything not to be so grifty and you know, the gross direction we've been going lately, that would have been a sign to me that they're turning into boxing and there's no turning back. So I'm glad as shit that we did not get Aspinall gone. But do you think the way that this whole thing was handled, the bizarre nature of waiting on the 315 main event to decide this main event, and the fact that they announced it 40 something days before, the shortest notice in like the last, you know, multiple years in IFW, that the more larger disturbing trend, even separate from how much money they're extracting from the product and raising prices and the questionable matchmaking, I just feel like they're not prioritizing the main events of the quote unquote major cards in any form of like advanced time. And I know MMA is a fluid game, injuries, people turning down fights always changes things. But like, you can go back to UFC 300 when it seemed like they didn't have a plan and sort of just rallied and called Poetan and he saved it. Obviously, same thing when Conor McGregor was main eventing an IFW card against Chandler that had nothing else besides that main event, and they called Poetan last minute and they saved it. There's been a few other times, even the Sphere, where we felt like they didn't necessarily get the right marquee fights atop of there at the right time with the right notice. Is that viable criticism in the case from me, in your opinion, that like, first and foremost, get your big tent shit in order first? Like, it shouldn't be where we're relying on the result of a fight to change matters. This is what I don't like, Luke, because if I'm a fan and I'm going to pay what they're making you pay, especially for something like IFW, I kind of want to know who's fighting a lot of time ahead of it. So I want to figure out if I'm making that trip.
You know, again, we come on the show, we try not to be overly negative, but to me, what we have to watch, like, the way in which this fight was booked and the way in which it was announced is downstream from a series of problems that they have, namely star power. And that's a function of a lot of different things, including but not limited to the way in which the UFC has constructed their own business and what they've chosen to prioritize versus not. And so that's why there weren't enough available fights and stars to call upon to fill this in a more readily upfront kind of a way. There's other factors involved. Namely, you know, Dana White appears to be halfway out the door, or, you know, I don't know what to say about any of that. He just doesn't appear to be as checked in as he once did. That's another factor. They're not competing really against anybody else. That's another factor. You know, so it's a series of things that put you in a position where they don't have enough guys. They didn't have enough of them ready to go. They couldn't get that out the door early enough, and so they have to kind of wait and play, you know, a little bit of the what's the game where you have the ball and then the cup and then they're, you know, you're rotating it or whatever. The point is, under a strained metaphor, they just had to move pieces around and had to wait until events transpired, as we saw, before they were even ready to do this kind of a thing. That reality is down. It doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It didn't just happen because they were just sitting on their hands. It happened because they were dealing with the situation, I think, honestly, as best they could, but from a series of broader considerations that are in play that they're also architects of, that make getting those things out the door and more premium selected early enough much more difficult than it once used to be.
Yeah, I think you meant like a 3-card Monty, like a
3-card Monty. That's it. Yes.
Yeah. And when you say broader things, you're not talking about the women's division. There's not like a, you know, misogynist route in there. No. Luke, quickly on that co-main event in the flyweight division, you said Pantoja maybe doesn't get the pound for pound respect, but ESPN.com and CBS Sports, of which I rank that myself, do have Pantoja at number 6. So we're respecting that man.
Fair enough. I just think where's he right now? And last time I checked, I did not like his positioning in the official UFC rankings, which, you know, you could say whatever. They got Pantoja sitting at 10.
Yo. Yeah, that's
so,
I mean,
they've got JDM above him, and I'm like, all respect to JDM. I'm sorry, he's not above Pantoja.
I hate the way they do I hate the way they do all their rankings. Dana's actually right about that part. Your rankings suck, Dana. You're using non-employed media members that no one's ever heard of. But the odds on this co-main from DraftKings minus 245 for Pantoja, plus 200 for KKF. Luke, I'm happy Kai Car-France has climbed this ladder. Maybe it helped him that there's been a lot of parity at the top with a lot of rematches and a lot of Pantoja lately. But this should be a good fight. I'm fired up. I'm ready.
Again, I think up and down this card, there's a ton of fucking quality, including but not limited to that co-main.
Yeah, well done there. Let's go to topic number 2. And we're going to get to Ilia versus Islam. And we're going to get, obviously, to the unplanned fight. It's planned, but not booked yet. Jack Della Maddalena, as we assume, to make that first welterweight title defense against Islam Makhachev. But we got another big banger out of that Dana announcement. I got to be honest, it brought a lot of relief to me that when it comes to summer blockbusters, in which we already have Poirier Holloway 3 in New Orleans at 318 to top of pay-per-view. How about UFC 319 in Chicago in August? And this absolutely fantastic must-have main event between two guys that you could argue belong in the top 10 pound for pound. Dricus du Plessis defending his title against Khamzat Chimaev. And we still haven't found the ceiling on Chimaev through this wild up and down sort of unique run that he's had. Luke, before we can even talk about this fight, we have to address the giant elephant in the room, which is the whole idea of will Khamzat make it into the ring? Will he make it into the U.S.? Will he be healthy? Will he not have another weight debacle and maybe a conspiracy against Nate Diaz in what happened that time around? It seems like a good time to show a little bit of a quote here, maybe a little bit of a shots fired, brought to you by Cuervo. And look, Dricus du Plessis, the champion, went to social media with that same thing, saying, look, with Nasruddin Imavov, the number one contender, being named the backup fighter for this, DDP said, I guess I'm fighting Imavov. So Luke Thomas, I'd like you to react to that, because this fight bangs. It's awesome. It's one, both commercially and critically. I think it's a big deal. I love that they're going back to Chicago. But we do have to get past that, which was the reason for this shots fired. Even the champ himself isn't confident that he's going to see Chimaev across from him in August.
Dricus finds all kinds of ways to just stick it to these guys mentally ahead of time, which is really quite remarkable. He has a unique ability to take someone's weakness, or sometimes you don't even know what their weakness is, but certainly a perceived weakness, and really just dig his finger into it a little bit and make them squirm. I suspect that this will be something that he'll be harping on quite a bit. And if he ends up doing a McGregor, let's say a 2016 McGregor, where his predictions come true, he's going to look even more like a genius in all of this. It's just a very funny way to undermine Chimaev. It's a way to undermine his readiness. It's a way to undermine, to a degree, his past. It's a way to undermine his future. It's just a way to make him seem lesser than, weak, incapable, feeble, unreliable, all the kinds of things that would make Chimaev potentially, I'm going to guess, because fighters are very, very sensitive, angry, embittered. And yes, that can backfire too. We'll see if that happens at UFC 319, but it just is very, very, the more you learn about Dricus's personality, he got treated, BC, when he came to the UFC, especially for the first few fights, as almost like a Labrador dog. You know what I mean? Like, big goofy thing that's, maybe athletic and you're happy to be there, but you didn't really know what it's going to be. And in the end, it turns out he's something of an evil genius. It seems to me more of like what he's morphed into, a guy who understands the weaknesses of his opponents, keen insight, is a physical bruiser himself, and then leverages both of those things, the mental warfare and then the physical nature of how he competes. And it's really quite overwhelming in the end. I will tell you, BC, I don't know how you feel. Everyone's going to be different on this one. If I may,
You may.
I'm much more excited about DDP Khamzat than I am Ilia Charles. I think that this fight is one of the most electric, insane. The part of what makes MMA is, calm scientific fighting can sometimes be exactly what the doctor ordered. There's all different kinds of fights, and it's okay to like a particular version of them. But one of the hallmarks of MMA is its capacity for insane, electric, balls out fighting. And we know Khamzat can deliver that. Khamzat versus Gilbert Burns, pretty clear example of it, but it's just his style anyway. And if there's any kind of dance partner who you would want to see that up against in that middleweight division, not even just because he has the title, although that certainly adds to it, it's Dricus du Plessis. Dude, this fight is what is what MMA is it's what really sets MMA apart from other combat sports. This kind of matchup is exactly what you're looking for at certain times. And, you know, given the calendar we're getting for the headliners in the summer, for this one to cap off the end of the summer, to me is just fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
and to do it in Chicago, a major market, I freaking can't wait for this one.
I echo that. And that, of course, was Shots Fired, brought to you by Cuervo. Now's a good time to enjoy the tequila that invented tequila. Luke, I could not echo any more of my love for the fight, but I do want to get your
Can we see your cat's butthole?
No, this is Zoe the cat. I'm just trying to keep her off of me, to be honest. Okay, I got to keep her away with the stick. Just, you know, you stay over there.
She's loving on you.
Oh, she's the best, but she'll bite viciously if you're not prepared. I mean, she'll sneak into the bed and bite your toes, Luke, if you're not petting her at bedtime. But no more pillow talk between man and cat. What I do want to get an answer from you is like, no, this fight's great. Yeah, it might probably is even better than Charles versus Ilia, and maybe on par with Islam versus JDM in terms of my excitement level to it. But even though Dana says Chimaev can fly to the U.S. without issue, Chimaev's history of illnesses, weight misses, visa issues, like extended illnesses, when he does show up and when he's at his best, there's a reason why the hype is still large. Are you 100% confident that he will show up in that cage and be 100%? Because I don't want to be so worried about will he. I'd rather be worried about one of the key angles of the fight, which is, what does he look like in the championship rounds if DDP takes him there?
It's not that I don't think these concerns are relevant, BC, but I'm just not going to waste my time with it. This was a guy that we thought should have gotten a title shot a while ago, and he didn't for a few reasons. Again, you know, having a relationship to a Chechen warlord probably doesn't help. That's a big one, but, you know, no one cares about doing the right thing anymore. So he'll be allowed back in here. That obstacle is gone. And yes, there's been questions about his lingering fitness related to whatever illness he had back. You know, again, I don't know exactly what the full extent of what happened to him, but let's call it health issues, right? I don't know. Here's what I know. What is he, 30 now? Dude, shit or get off the pot. Like, all of these concerns about can he make weight and what's he going to look like and can he deliver on some of these more basic things, just kind of showing up to the fight to compete. Dude, like, either he can or he can't. And I understand the point about like, well, I'm worried about him not showing up. Like, this is the line in the sand. This is the moment. You are now ready for a UFC title. They're going to put you on a major market. They're going to put you on pay-per-view. They're going to put you against a dance partner that is a can't-miss opponent in terms of, like, you know, meeting you for an exciting fight. Like, if you can't make this, we can just write you off for good. I truly mean that. It isn't to say he couldn't come back and have another fight where he could weigh in and he could have some success down the line. But, like, I'm at the point now where it's like the level of professionalism and readiness that he needs to have. He's had time to get here now. He's had an opportunity to right these wrongs. He's had opportunities to get this thing sailing in the right direction. And if he can't, then we can just move on past him. I mean that totally thoroughly. So to
right.
me, it's like, I'm not dismissing come August, oh my God, what's going to happen? I understand that point, but this is all of the mulligans he's been given, all of the, well, we'll see next time. There is no next time after this. Show up and fight or don't. And if you don't, we can just forget about him as a relevant factor in this division going forward.
I mean, it's an A+ main event. I just don't want no disrespect to Imavov, who keeps winning, but that's not an A+ main event. DDP versus Imavov. So I hope we get the steak come this summer that we deserve. Let's look at the odds right now for this fan-friggin-tastic matchup according to DraftKings. The champion DDP, a +164 underdog to the -198 Chimaev. Luke, we've seen again and again when he's got his ish together, what Chimaev did on like 2 hours notice against Kevin Holland, against Robert Whittaker. Like, I know he had that brawl with Gilbert Burns, and I still question to this day whether he sort of unnecessarily entered into a brawl like that to prove his toughness. but him as the betting favorite with all these questions, to me, only makes this fight even more interesting. Is that the right move for the odds makers here to kick off this event?
Once again, let's go to resident DGen, Bong Island Luke. Bong Island, what say you to BC's question?
I mean, I think they could be a little closer, but I do think Khamzat should be the favorite. That being said, I think DDP in every title fight has been the underdog, and he's obviously cashed every time. So I'll take DDP as a dog again. I mean,
I would too.
Yeah,
I would too, Luke. I would take DDP as a dog with that plus money if I was betting. No doubt about it. Dude, we don't know what this man's cardio looks like after he dominates people for a couple rounds.
Also, again, dude, DDP is going to be hard to hold down. He's going to be hard to manhandle. He's going to be hard to physically move around. The dude's a fucking tank. Like, I'm telling you, I can't wait for this fight. I cannot wait to see it.
DDP, 31 years old, dude. This is a growing kind of legendary resume he's starting to put together here. 23-2 overall, unbeaten in the UFC. And you look at this run that he's on right now that includes submission of Darren Till, TKO of Derek Brunson, domination of Robert Whittaker when he was a massive underdog in the eyes of a lot of us. 2 wins now over former champion Sean Strickland, including one to win the championship, and then a face crank submission win over former champion Israel Adesanya. Luke, if
Robert Whittaker.
No,
Wait, you're talking about DDP.
I'm talking about DDP.
Sorry, I misunderstood you. Yes.
So, Luke, if he adds unbeaten, red hot, getting pound for pound votes Chimaev to that resume, I know DDP's already getting the pound for pound love. He's right there firmly in the top 5 where he belongs. But for somebody who, when he beat Darren Till, we were making fun of him still for his technique. Dude, like, this is a legendary run if he adds this guy's name to that run of former champions. Holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. Best middleweight champion ever is Anderson. Second is Izzy. After that's a little bit up for grabs. But, like, if DDP can start getting a win like this, not only does that make him firmly number 3, but it might start having him nipping at the heels of number 2. That's the kind of thing. And I just never imagined we'd be there. This was a guy that lost to Roberto Soldic, back in the day. We got finished, as a matter of fact. And again, has a style that we all thought was kind of goofy. But here he is, earned the opportunity, has set the tone for that entire division. Hard to beat. Like, I just feel like he's doubted. He's quieted all the criticisms, or not all, but many of the criticisms about, or I should say, he's quieted many of the doubts about him. BC is like, does he deserve to be here? But there's a different level of deserve to be here, which is, where do you rank all time among UFC middleweight champions? He's starting to challenge some of those considerations as well. This is not just a, he got a title and maybe had one defense and he's on his way. He looks like he might be doing something special. Now, we have to see what he does, because Khamzat could steal all of this thunder. But I do agree, man. DDP could do something and again, I want to say something here. They put this fight in North America, in the United States anyway, but North America, where pay-per-view is the dominant, where pay-per-view matters the most, right? They're trying to put him here to really turn him into a big superstar, him and Khamzat. It's the right call. Putting this fight in Abu Dhabi, I don't think would have made the same amount of sense, although you could have done it. I think that the person who wins here, depending on how they market it, depending on how they build this card, a lot of factors, BC, but someone could be poised for a big star turn here.
I agree.
Based on the factors. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I mean, DDP is growing quickly in that star factor. When you have finishes over Adesanya, Whittaker, the 2 faces of this era at middleweight, 2 title wins over Strickland, and if you can add unbeaten Chimaev to that, this is going to, either way, it's going to fill the star hole, because we know, like, the click potential of what Chimaev brings in big fights. If he becomes the unbeaten champion with that villainous persona, damn, we got something here. I mean, look, this is a good development against that whole UFC star issue in building them, issue in having them. JDM felt like a minor star turn with that title win over Bilal. You've got Toporia, you've got Makhachev. Now we've got these 2 guys facing off in Chicago in August. I cannot wait. Let's go. Let's build stars, and let's build to these really big matchups. And Luke, it's going to feel like playoff time this summer when these MMA matchups hit and these huge UFC main events. But it's currently playoff time, if you didn't know. And boy, are the pro basketball playoffs absolutely on fire now. If you are still just watching the games, we're here to tell you you're missing out. Why? Because with Pick 6 from DraftKings, you can turn your hoops knowledge into real cash. Just make your picks, track your score, and if you hit all 6, you're looking at bigger payouts than Prize Picks Flex pays. Luke, we've got game 6 of Knicks Celtics tonight. Don't pick Jason Tatum for your lineup. He's out. But with their backs against the walls last time out in game 5, you had a few things happening, right? You had Jaylen Brown showing you why he's the heart and soul of that team. You were talking about Derek White coming out of nowhere with 34 points. How about Luke Cornett with 7 blocks off the bench right there, Luke? When we're talking about putting together a pick 6 lineup for tonight, whether you like the Celtics or you're on Team Brunson and the Knicks, that's what's going on, Luke. Who are you picking first? Who are you going after in these stat lines?
Yeah, I mean, I watched the Wizards and not necessarily a ton else, but I have definitely checked in on these games. That dude White from Boston, oh my God, he is just
he does the little things too, that guy.
Yeah, well, he's just money from behind the arc. I mean, the game starts, and within the first few minutes, he's got 3 threes, 4 threes already cooking, setting the tone there himself, as I should say. So for me, that's the way I would go. I think that guy has been reliable. He's been a producer. He's been, a contributor, to your point, not just from behind the 3-point line, but to defensive play as well. I would go with him, but Nick's got something to say about that too.
Yeah, you got to think about Josh Hart as a guard, considering his rebounding ability, averaging over 9. That really would help you out a lot when we're talking about pick 6, because nobody's dropping better payouts than pick 6. Hit 6 picks, and that's 25 times your cash. And if you beat your competition, you could be looking at a 500 times bag in your pocket. And right now, new customers will get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry. It's simple. Put together a lineup of 6 players. You're looking at certain stats going over or under. That's how you put it together. That's how you make big money. So the playoffs are on, and it's time for you to get on too. So why not take a shot at making a little money while you're watching? Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app right now. Use our code KOMBAT with a K. That is code KOMBAT with a K. Play $5, get $50 in bonus picks, better payouts, better wins. Only on Pick 6 from DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 plus. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. Terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos. Luke, gun to your head. Will the Celtics survive and advance to a game 7 on the road? Can they do it without their leading scorer, Jason Tatum?
I certainly hope not. I detest the Celtics and Boston. Well, I like parts of Boston, but I detest their sports fans. I detest their fan culture.
There's way more annoying Knicks fans.
I don't even like the Knicks, but let's go Knicks, baby. I hope they fucking dunk on those bitches.
Okay, those bitches are going to be back for game.
Ask Long Island Luke. Hey, Long Island Luke, how do you feel about the Knicks chances?
Yeah, the New Yorker. Ask the New Yorker.
Knicks all day, baby. Let's go.
Yeah, that guy don't like the Knicks. That guy only likes hockey.
Knicks fans are atrocious as well.
Yeah. That guy likes hockey, Aussies, and gambling, and weed. That's it in that order. All right, there you go. Luke, topic number 3. Given the unusual amount of tension and the potential stakes involved, stated plainly, we've had a back and forth war of words in the last 48 hours on social media between the 2 best fighters in the game, Ilia Toporia and Islam Makhachev. They will not be coming together for the lightweight title as Islam vacated. We think he's going to move up and fight JDM, and we know where Ilia is going. But given that people won't stop talking about this matchup, given that I said it's the best fight you can make in the entire sport, is it okay to second guess the UFC, even though we got these good consolation prizes? Should the UFC have found a way to force this fight before making any other moves in either division? Plainly put, Luke, did the UFC miss the boat on a can't miss Ilia versus Islam, number 1 versus number 2, the 2 best fighters on this planet?
I'm inclined to say yes.
Whoa!
Yeah.
You were never on team Ilia Islam. Some people thought you were protecting your boy. That's what some people thought.
Well, some people are stupid as shit. I mean, what can I do? The world is filled with idiots. We are drowning among them. But it's not a clear yes, BC, but I'm warming up to it. I'm warming up to it. And I would love to hear your perspective here in a minute. But like, here's the thing. And I said this at the top of the show. It is always going to be better. Consider what just happened at welterweight when the title is taken by someone or defended, either way. But the process is such that the title does need to change hands. It is better to be taken by the fighter who was the challenger from the champion. That is always going to be better. It's going to be better for the fans. It's probably going to be better for the fight itself. And it's definitely going to be better for the sport and the division. It's just when a title has to be handed back administratively, it is so deflating in ways that it's hard to overstate. And I didn't even realize this until someone brought this up to me because I just never pieced it together. BC, Connor had the fight, had the title, and had it stripped. Who won it after him? I'm trying to think here.
Nurmagomedov beat Al Iaquinta.
Al, he gives it back, and so they have to then give it to the winner of Chandler Oliveira. He wins it and then loses it on the scale. And then ultimately Islam's able to pick it up at a later time, although it was, he at least fought, for it or whatever. But in every one of these cases, it had to be handed to the next person, essentially. I mean, they had to win it, but they didn't win it off of the other fighter. The UFC had to administratively put it up for grabs again. This is like lightweight has been in a weird spot, BC. It's been in a really weird place where they didn't have the turnover that you're now seeing at places like welterweight. Welterweight is thriving as a consequence. You didn't have any of that. And you've had this weird kind of administrative, guiding of the title from fight to fight because nobody is either by luck or, whatever you want to say, has been able to win it back. And this is not good for the sport. It's not good for the division. And for all the folks out there who are like, oh, well, what was reported was that Islam and the UFC came to an understanding that he had to give it up. Please be fucking serious with me. Please be serious. What fighter knowingly gives up hardware? I mean, yeah, if you're retiring and you don't want to do that anymore, that's one thing, sure. But like, if you're still active and you want to get a title in a second weight class, what fighter like just says, oh, I just don't even care about that title anymore? And again, there could be cases where they're retiring. There could be a case where like the weight cut was just so insane. There are a couple of exceptions that prove the rule, but let me just tell you, fighters don't want to give that up. That's not a thing that they want to give up. And I understand that we haven't necessarily lost Islam Ilia forever, but there's a good chance that we have. And my point to you here is, BC, I understand the UFC's position, which is the fights have to get made, cards have to get made, and we got to put them on time. They got to get out the door. I understand that. So from the UFC's perspective, it just doesn't make sense for someone to be a champ. I understand that. But the fighters who seem allergic to the idea that they should ever advance their own interests beyond what the UFC wants for them, they're doing this to themselves, so I don't necessarily have a great degree of sympathy for them. However, what I would say is, for the fans' sake, for the division's sake, frankly, for the sport's sake, if we've lost one of the very best fights that could be made in the last several years of 1 versus 2, and there's no way to get it back, it is a little hard for me to see that as anything other than some kind of a big missed opportunity. Whether we want to use the word mistake, I don't know. But if there was a world where we could have made that, we probably should have, right?
Well, Luke, I would have loved that energy from you more when the window was open. Not that we can sway UFC matchmakers or fighters in our direction, but you were kind of openly against it throughout. And it's like, as a consolation prize, are the 2 title fights, will I accept it in this era where I'm used to not getting what I want? Yeah, hell yeah, I love both of those fights, so I'm okay. But they 100% missed this window. And, I don't hold it against Toporia leaving a situation, like you said, at featherweight where a former champion who had just been knocked out had to fight somebody who wasn't quite ready for prime time. And now it feels like that division's a little wonky with that, but at least it's Volk. He's a legend on top. But I don't really understand Islam not staying and taking care of this first, given the stakes. Did UFC try? Did they try to throw a ton of money at him? I'm not sure. I don't know. I think part of him wanting to go up is not just that Islam's 33 and he wants to really carve out his own legacy as not just Khabib's boy, but a potential 2-division champion right there. I also think there's elements of how they honor the legend, legacy, and plans of the late Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, that they're opening up room for Usman Nurmagomedov once he gets through the Paul Hughes rematch, win or lose, to make that move to the UFC. I feel like that is something that's part of this as well. But I'm not sure if we're going to get this again or have a window for it again, unless, and I'm wondering if you believe that the UFC is thinking about this as a possibility, for Toporia having followed the Conor McGregor lead on basically all of his career decision-making, from the way he flaunts himself. He says he learned English by watching McGregor interviews. He's got McGregor-esque tattoos on him. He gave up the title and moved up. What if he stops Charles Oliveira? Isn't he just going to call out Islam right after? And the idea being that if Islam wins the 170 title from JDM, that we have a potential to get that fight next, which would make it bigger. Or maybe even if Islam loses the title at welterweight and then says, F it, I'll go back down and get my belt back and we'll make this. Either way, I wonder if the door, it's a big what if, but do you think that's part of the equation? Them saying we still have an opportunity to build to this and make it bigger than ever?
Well, that's the hope. I mean, let me just say a little bit, if I can, about like my evolved thinking on this a little bit, which is, you're right. Like, I had a very different attitude previously. And I don't think that, again, it's not like what we're getting is bad. I don't think that what we're getting is bad. Islam going up to 70 against JDM rules. Ilia coming up against Charles Oliveira rules. I guess the point I'm trying to say here is sometimes sometimes you just inherit the world the way that it is, and the way that the promoters define it. And when the promoter has so much say in this case, it almost just becomes, I don't know how to explain this. You just get kind of stuck in their own, like how the UFC perceives it. You kind of almost by osmosis begin to internalize it a little bit, right? Rather than like, hey, let's reimagine how it maybe should be. Let's reimagine it in a way that could be. Now, again, we haven't necessarily lost this fight, but BC, another sort of way in which this has got kind of grown interesting to me was after this announcement was made, these two are going after each other.
Yeah.
You know, with
in ways that make you want to see them against each other.
Yes.
Now. Can we?
Yeah, it did. It did in a way that I just didn't consider before, if I can be honest with you.
So Ilia unleashed on Islam and his hypocrisy in moving to welterweight. Ilia had said, Islam is the biggest hypocrite I've ever seen. He said he didn't want to give me the opportunity because I was the little guy. And now the little guy is the one looking for the, does that say lame opportunity I was looking for? I've never seen more hypocrisy in my life. Islam would quote tweet and respond and say, difference between me and you, that I cleaned out the top list in my division, moved to next, but you ran away from two contenders who had consecutive 5 to 9 wins in featherweight division. You are nobody in lightweight division, just a big mouth from Spain with a nice haircut. Go get 1 W and we can talk, boy. They would continue with Ilia quote tweeting that and saying the difference between you and me is that I am a man and you are a coward. I speak and fight. You talk and hide. Run away far, leaving no trace. And then he put something there. Is that in Russian, Luke? I don't know what that is. Is that in Georgian? I don't know what that is, Luke. But here's what I got to say about that, Luke. I'm more of a Makhachev guy between these two in terms of fighters I like. Who do I think's the better fighter? Makhachev. Who do I think would win? Great fight. We need it right now, but I still think Makhachev. I greatly dislike the hypocrisy Makhachev has shown, and I think Ilia's right there in saying, no, you have to earn it first in this division, even though he's now going to move up and get the immediate title shot. We all see that. But how about him saying, I cleaned out this division, and then people are memeing him and showing the top 10 and showing how few of people he've actually had. Now, it's not all his fault. Fights have fallen apart. He had to take Moicano.
Definitely not all his fault. Definitely.
I don't like when people rip him for fighting blown up featherweights, considering Volkanovski was #1 pound for pound and heading into that 2-fight series. But Ilia is right in these trash talks, Luke. I mean, it's not like Islam's not daring to be great. He's hell yeah doing that right now by moving up and fighting such a great young champion on the rise here in JDM. But we probably could have had this if Islam wanted it, Luke. And I think history is going to show that he didn't want it, dude. He didn't want it at all. So it's like, now you're talking your shit now. Now I want to see it even more, dude. Come on.
What is the UFC's thinking about why they couldn't make it? Do you think that like they were concerned that Islam would lose and that would spoil a move up to 70?
I'm not really sure, because whenever I've heard that response, whether it be from you or Jed Meshew on various shows I've appeared on, I always feel like you let the fights play themselves out. you don't worry about what happens next if this guy wins or this guy wins. How about they just fight? It's probably going to be freaking awesome, and there's probably going to be demand for an immediate rematch. So, like, let's see where it would have gone. Let's let the results of the fight dictate the future of movement and what people are going to do. I would have rather have gone that route myself, especially in an era where we're begging for big time star fights that matter. What matters more than 1 versus 2 pound for pound with two guys in their absolute primes, different ages, different situations, but God dang it, Luke, this is a sex matchup. I mean, this is everything you want. Like I said, though, do you think Toporia will follow in the McGregor footsteps with a win and just be like, one and done at lightweight, brother? I'm all about Islam next.
It absolutely could be, but I just don't think the UFC is going to entertain that. Like, I definitely think that he's going to call out Islam if he wins. And I really hope that there's a way to think about this where Islam could consider going back down. Because losing this fight to me is, again, I don't know. I don't know how to quite explain it. Like, this fight became significantly more attractive in the last week to me than it had previously. And some of the reasons that Islam was like, I don't want to do this anymore, I still think are super valid. I mean, he is cutting a ton of weight to get to 55 versus 70. And I think that changes a lot of the equation. But like I said before, BC, just, are we going to lose this forever in a way that we didn't necessarily have to? I don't know what the right answer was here, because it sounds very easy, like, oh, they should have made it. And again, if there was a way to make it, they should have done it. I'm going to go back to it one more time. If they had paid these guys a sufficient amount, BC, could we have made this fight a lot more easily? I don't know the answer to that question. I don't know what the truth is there. But in a world where we know that the fighters don't necessarily make, a significant amount relative to what they could, that is also one of these relevant questions. I'm not trying to steer the question towards fighter pay. I'm simply saying, BC, there are complicating factors that made this a little harder to come by than I think the readiness and our urge to want to see it.
I think the only complicated factors was Makhachev not wanting the fight and basically saying, like, I already had a plan to move up. They probably already talked about it for a long time. And I feel like it's him being stubborn. But I don't take the money account into this, because we're talking about the 1% here. These are the 1%ers. These are the championship level stars that make the real money. And I'm starting to believe there's something to the idea that anytime something's brought up about Khabib or Islam, Dana's quick to say, oh, they've made millions. Oh, those guys have been paid very well. I don't know if that means, paid by sponsors by government. I don't know what that means, Luke, but I tend to believe more that Islam's been paid very well, and this has nothing to do with that. He's a consistent pay-per-view headliner, arguably the best and biggest star in the sport, if you want to break it down on the markets that he goes and lights up, like in the Middle East when he fights there. So I don't think it's that. And, I'm not
okay, but let me push back. Let me push back a little bit. How can we – I have my own thoughts on this, but I want to hear yours. How can we say that Islam is particularly afraid of what Ilia can offer when he's trying to go up 15 pounds in weight and take on a guy who, by the way, Jack, looked awesome against Bilal? What's the argument?
I think it's more due to stubbornness, Islam wanting to control his own path. He's probably been talking about moving up for a while. There's probably some sort of light agreement with the UFC. I really do believe he's trying to open up an opportunity, because he's talked about it for years in interviews, for Usman Nurmagomedov, his teammate and, quote unquote brother, to come up. But it felt like it could have been done. It felt like Islam could have said, okay, well, let's just have a natural handoff. We'll give him the opportunity to fight for it. Let's do it. You do have a short window in your career, and you do at some point have to use your leverage and make the fights you want. I'm not saying this is about being scared. He's going up and fighting JDM, who's on fire right now. It's a great ass fight. Then should I take my finger pointing off of him and point it back at the UFC and say, did they make it rich enough for him? I mean, I don't know, Luke. I don't know. There's only so much we can complain about this, because we're still getting great replacement fights. But when I see these two amping up their trash talk now, it's like, okay, you kind of missed that window. I mean, we got more sound. Want to hear from Ilia here?
Yeah.
He called a press conference to rip these guys. Let's listen in.
Esperaba una grandísima pelea contra Oliveira, pero la realidad es que también ha quedado la sensación de que una de las peleas más grandes que pudiera haber en la historia de las MMA se ha escapado. Eso es porque Islam Makhachev ha subido de división al peso welter. Quería saber qué análisis haces tú de esa subida de Islam a welter.
Es el mayor hipócrita que yo haya visto jamás. A mí me decía que no me quería dar la oportunidad porque era el chico pequeño, y ahora el chico pequeño es él, que está buscando la misma oportunidad que yo estaba buscando. Entonces es como criticabas una decisión, una acción mía, cuando tú estás ahora mismo haciendo lo mismo. Es como no he visto más hipocresía en mi vida, pero bueno, así estará de asesorado y así será.
Su manager, Ilia, en una entrevista ha dicho las siguientes palabras, y es que tendrías que darle las gracias a Islam Makhachev por haber dejado el cinturón vacante.
A mí me tendría que dar las gracias a Ali por no haberle metido una paliza a su estrella, y que el día de hoy que todavía tenga un valor y que tenga algo de credibilidad es gracias a mí, porque lo han sacado desde la puerta trasera, porque todos lo saben, era la pelea que todo el mundo quería ver, yo estaba dispuesto a hacerla, me había preparado, había puesto encima de la mesa todo lo que estaba en mis manos, y se escaparon, y desde un principio nunca en ningún segundo aceptaron el combate. Siempre dijeron que no me lo merecía, que no le querían dar la oportunidad a otro chico pequeño, por lo que jamás han aceptado la pelea, y menos me han hecho ningún favor. Si no se han hecho a ellos mismos un favor de escaparse a tiempo para que todavía tengan algo de credibilidad y algo de valor.
People who are watching live could see the subtitles. He's basically dunking on Ali, continuing down the hypocrisy road. I think this is what started the back and forth between them on Twitter. But you get a lot of people saying, dude, Islam don't tweet. That's Ali tweeting for his fighters again, responding to this from Ilia. I see a lot of people saying that's the most Ali thing you could do. Sign your fighter to a different fight and then spend the time trash talking the former fighter that people wanted you to fight. We do also have sound from Ali to continue this discussion about when this Makhachev fight could and will take place and where.
People are hoping over here, obviously, that the fight happens in Perth. But obviously, I spoke to Javier Mendez. He's like, well, I don't know. It's a big fight.
I already know. Listen, it's not gonna. It might not be in Abu Dhabi. It's a big enough fight. It's gonna be in New York, Madison Square Garden, or it's gonna be in Las Vegas. If they said going to be in Abu Dhabi, but it's not going to be in Perth or Australia, none of these places.
So that was Dennis from Submission Radio, of course, interviewing him. Luke, do you think the tease there of MSG is basically, if they can't get Jones and Aspinall, then you put JDM versus Islam in that building?
See, this is the other part of the calendar that you got to think about. They got to spread some of this stuff out to fill all these headlining roles. I mean, this is what I mean. It's like you kind of internalize the UFC's own logic when you think about matchmaking, which you would do if you're a reporter watching the NFL, because that's how it would work there. But the difference, of course, is that, again, not to belabor the point, but NFL players are employees. They're not independent contractors, so it's a different situation. They can kind of be told what to do in a way that it's a little bit different here, and the UFC has to spread this out over the calendar, and that makes it what it is. Yes, I mean, I wouldn't rule out Abu Dhabi, but Abu Dhabi, yes. Perth, there's no way. I mean, Jack doesn't.
No, and I don't think Makhachev would. I mean, look, he's the number
he
one
already
fighter
did that
in the
for
world.
Volk. Volk was number one in the world when he did that. It's so different to me. So yeah, New York, LA, even maybe potentially Vegas for sure, and then maybe Abu Dhabi if they're feeling frisky about it. But that's about it.
That Abu Dhabi one's normally in October and is really one of their majors without question. I would love for it to fill that, especially if we would get Jones Aspinall the next month. I mean, they are starting to set themselves up, the UFC, the rest of this year, at least from a headliner standpoint, to bang, bang, deliver one after another, including Holloway Poirier. So I'm fired up for that. That would give JDM, it seems, enough time to rest and get back into training and make this turnaround. Maybe Ali was the one doing all the tweeting, and this whole back and forth is much ado about nothing. I'm not sure. But Luke, back to close that question you asked me about if he's going up to fight a bigger guy who's a champion and who's red hot, then that's not ducking. What do you actually believe is the tougher fight on paper for Makhachev, to maybe answer that question? Is it welterweight JDM, who hits hard and is evolving his game, but isn't a great wrestler, an effective defensive wrestler in this most recent fight, no question? Or is it the smaller Toporia, who's got a completely well-rounded game, but the last time we saw him, he weighed 145? What is it in your eyes?
Well, this is the part that is exciting. I mean, this is, to me, the trade-off, right? So if he was at 55, you know Toporia's power carries, but I do think the ability for Islam to physically handle Toporia would be pretty significant. Right. I do think that would be a lot. By contrast, yes, he'll be much more hydrated, and I think much more able to take punches up at 170 relative in not obviously the 70-year guys are going to hit harder than the 55 guys on average. But what I'm trying to point out is if you're going to spot Islam 15 more pounds, his relative ability to take punishment will go up. I do think that is true. It's just that now, of course, you're dealing with a much larger opponent. And so how does his ability to leverage his grappling against a guy like that, who's going to be Craig Jones trained as well, how does that go up? This is an unknowable thing, to be perfectly honest. My hunch is that JDM actually might be the tougher fight, but I'm speculating, and I don't know if there's enough information to make a hardcore determination at this point. But that's why it's exciting. That's why it's exciting. Islam is going to 70, and that's part of my, again, I will say this though, I'll be very disappointed if we get either one fight from either guy at this weight class. Like if Ilia does this and is like, oh, I'm out, I want to go to 70, I'll be upset. And if Islam does this and wins and is like, yeah, I'm done, I'm going to retire, I'll also be upset. My hope is that we're going to get from either of them is something of a new campaign at this weight class, however long it might last.
I hope Islam can't. You can't win and then retire. I know that's.
You can't? Why not?
I mean, he could, and it would fall in line with that camp with Habib retiring early, although that was for father and mother. I hope Islam plans on making a run here and continuing to deepen himself in the history books. But Luke, head to head, I do think Toporia is the tougher matchup, just barely, because I think there's a potential embarrassment factor for him in potentially losing to the smaller man as opposed to going up and fighting a bigger man. I think Toporia is a little bit more skilled. Obviously, you'd have huge questions to answer about whether his skills rise in weight with him. But there is this soft Georgia versus Dagestan rivalry going on. I think you can say that's true, right? Merab just took the belt from Umar or in that fight or kept Umar away from winning the belt. Maybe that's part of it, Luke. Maybe that's part of it deeper. It's a good rivalry that's brewing here.
Yeah, to me, this fight, it's weird. It kind of grew a new life after the division, or I should say, after the UFC moved on from it. It actually got even hotter, and that was kind of surprising.
Real quick, Long Island, Luke, if I can bring you in for the betting angle. No DraftKings line, but early offshore lines have a plus 175, plus 200 underdog here for the champion Della Maddalena, where Islam would be a minus 175 favorite. How do you speak on that?
I mean, I doubted JDM against Bilal. I don't know if I could do it again, but I also feel like Islam wins that fight pretty easily.
I feel like he wins it, but Cam, do I have to see it?
When I say easily, I'm saying like 8 out of 10 times I think Islam wins that fight.
Wow. He also said Gary would run through Pratesh, and that almost became a bear trap at the end. Right. Yeah, well, don't look at this guy. Yeah, all right, there you go. All right, that was this is good though. Look, I have to say, all in all, we can nitpick and we do. We're critical when we need to. This changes my optimism moving forward, my lookout for the head of the year, because what I want from them is health. What I want for them is buzz. I want job security. I want my content to move product. I want to be excited as a fan. When you do the big things the right way, forget the day-to-day stuff, forget the apex matchmaking. When you hit the main events with shit that's going to wake up casuals or part-time fans, that's when I get fired up. They're doing that the rest of this year. It seems there's a lot of potential for that. Let's go.
On paper, the summer looks scorching. So I'm just going to try and remain cautiously optimistic. And I think if they deliver on what they've got on paper, we'll be in a good place by the fall.
Yeah, and I think the next few cards, the Newark card, I mean, I don't hate. I mean, there's some Fight Night
card to me could be good, but I'm actually a little bit negative about that one.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'll put some optimism on there with everything else going around it. What we have this Saturday though, Luke, is topic number 4 as we continue on down with the UFC, and it's UFC Fight Night, Apex style, I believe, right? Apex, yeah, we're back.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, we back in a big way in a welterweight main event as 38-year-old former title challenger, friend of the program, the beloved Gilbert Burns welcomes in an absolute red-hot welterweight in Michael Morales, the 25-year-old from Ecuador, who is 17-0 overall, won all 5 of his UFC fights, won his Dana White Contender Series fight, and enters this fight fresh off of a first-round TKO, a destructive win over veteran Neil Magny. Gilbert Burns on the other side is 38, like I mentioned, but Brazilians age gracefully or more than others, Luke. We've seen Problem is he's lost 3 in a row. All to elite competition, though, when we're talking about Bilal, JDM, and Sean Brady. Luke, I freaking love this fight. And this breakdown of Burns versus Morales in this UFC Fight Night preview is brought to you, by the way, by Total Wireless, the official wireless provider of UFC. Get unlimited data that won't slow you down. So, Luke, the stakes are pretty clear here. Let's discuss this fight. How much realistically, in your eyes, does Burns have left to offer the rising Morales in a deep and fun division?
I gotta say, so normally in these contests, which the UFC is now doing like much more nakedly, especially in these like Apex main events, where they're taking a young up and comer against an aging vet. I mean, that's always been the model, but it feels like it's especially been tuned up with some of these Apex main events. Now, normally I'm like, you know what? I respect the aging veteran, but I just feel like it's the young guy's time. I don't know about this one. This one, I've got questions. Let's put it that way. I got questions. If you watch Michael Morales, now one thing I will say that Gilbert Burns is very much up against here, Morales is going to have an 8-inch reach advantage. I mean, holy shit.
Holy crap, Luke.
Yeah, 71 versus 79-inch reach. That's a big one. All right. So that alone gives me some serious pause. Also, if you just watch Morales, he's a fucking tank. He's really strong. He's got a good chin, and he does have obviously big power. You watch the Jake Matthews fight, he would hit Matthews, and Matthews, you could tell, just had a very different reaction versus when Matthews would hit him. So, he's just a physically imposing force that I think is going to be real tough for Gilbert to deal with. But here's the thing, BC. Morales, as good as he is, and he is quite good, he's 25. Dude, he makes a lot of errors. A lot of errors. He leaves his feet all the time in ways that he shouldn't. He constantly rhythm steps. He drops his jab. He doesn't throw necessarily in combination. He over pursues via position. He doesn't set up his jab a lot of times, so he gets countered off of it all the time. He does have very good and very strong takedown defense, but Gilbert's crafty. If Gilbert can find the back, I mean, the thing for me is it's youth versus experience. That for sure is true. But you're just talking about a guy in Gilbert who's got like a lot of experience. And you got a guy in Morales who's got really green skill set, relatively speaking. Normally, when we see these kinds of matchups, they're a little bit closer in terms of, one guy, the young and up-and-comer, is a little bit more polished than this. And then the old guy isn't quite as battle-tested as Gilbert is. I know the odds have Gilbert like way down.
Dude, the odds are insane.
Okay.
The odds are insane when you consider Gilbert's 1 year removed from putting it on the current champion and being up on the scorecards 2 out of 3 with 2 minutes to go in the fight.
That's what I mean, dude. That's what I mean. Now, also, what we've also learned is Jack Della Maddalena is very good at extracting himself from bad situations. So
sure.
On the one hand, that's true, but gun to my head, I'm probably just going to say past his prologue, and I think Morales should probably get the nod here, but he is green relative to Burns, dude. There's a big gap in skill here. You just have to wonder how much will the physical part kind of just make up for it. I guess we'll find out.
I mean, and didn't we just see in another young rising welterweight in Carlos Prates, who did rally back in the final round to redeem certain elements of that fight against Ian Machado Gary? But I think he's a little bit, is it fair to say he's a little bit more poised and less raw than Morales, and yet he looked like that was a huge wake-up call. Now, granted, that's Ian Machado Gary, a younger fighter, right in the top 5 looking for a title shot next. But I wonder if there's room here, not just in the idea that Gilbert might still have enough left in the tank, but you got to prove it at the higher level the more you rise. And if you have these gaping flaws, I guess I don't fully understand this line according to DraftKings right now, even with 38-year-old Gilbert on a 3-fight losing skid, even with the fact that he got stopped kind of brutally by the current champion, Jack Della Maddalena. And Gilbert would say afterwards, by the way, that Jack Della hits harder than anyone he has ever faced. Your current odds are plus 600 for Gilbert, minus 900 on Michael Morales. Luke, we said at 25, unbeaten, stopped Neil Magny in less than a round, which tells you something. But there's some flaws to that game. This is what old veterans do, expose fault flaws in that game. And you've got an old veteran who can not only bang, but on the ground, he's dangerous, not just in controlling you, but submitting you. I don't know, dude. I'm Long Island Luke, jump in here from a betting perspective, please, because you're going to be all over this card on Saturday.
I mean, I told you guys on Monday. Yeah, Monday. Yeah, when I saw you guys, I said, dude, you see the line on Gilbert Burns right now? I mean,
It's insane.
Same points you made. The 3-fight losing streak before they just updated the rankings, because now Bilal's the #1 contender, but Sean Brady was before they updated it. We're talking the current champ, former champ, #1 contender. That's it. Michael Morales hasn't fought anyone in the top 15 right now. He fought Neil Magny. Yeah, Magny fell out of the top 15. Unproven. And you're putting him Gilbert plus 600. I'm on Gilbert all day. Let's go.
I'm telling you, Luke. I mean, look, what is Michael Morales' ground skills? Will this decide the fight?
He doesn't have what Burns has on the ground, but he's got phenomenal takedown defense. I think he's got plus 90%.
That'll help him a lot.
Yeah,
is
that's going to be
is that what the odds makers are saying here?
It has to be yeah, he's bigger, he's much stronger, I'm sure, and he's got really, really good balance, really good takedown defense. That's where he's pretty strong. But dude, he can be hit. I mean, he's there to be hit. Like it's again, I gun to my head, I'm going to pick Morales. I think people are sleeping on Burns a little bit, man. I really do.
Burns enters as the number 8 welterweight according to the UFC rankings. Number 12 is Morales, and here is Gilbert Burns talking about how the Khamzat brawl, which I'm still going to say it, there's a huge argument to be made that Gilbert did win that fight over 3 rounds and didn't get the nod. He's claiming this fight derailed him. Let's listen.
So many things that I changed, like so many priorities, so many things. I think honestly, I think it got way too big after that Chimaev fight, and then
why? And if you don't mind me asking, why do you think what happened there?
I think it got a lot of fans. It got a lot of recognition. What is not a bad thing.
Rightfully so.
It was good. A lot of opportunities, couple sponsors. The fans recognizing everywhere, and it built up my platform to a different level. So, but then you kind of get caught up with these a little bit, like making money, traveling, and that, getting recognition. And I think that kind of took me a little bit away, slowly away on my path that, that do ring, that trains hard, that want to become a champion. Was not a bad thing to kind of have that financially grow.
Right.
But it kind of took me a little bit out of my path, so. And then slowly, after those couple losses, it was kind of actually very good for me to reflect on that, see what I changed, and kind of start correcting that a little bit, putting my priorities first, get my relationship with God kind of like to a place that I never been there.
Right.
Luke, he is honest as shit all the time. He's such a great interview. But you know what he kind of said without saying? First of all, I love that he was that honest and basically was like, it went to my head. Maybe it compromised who I am training-wise and all that. It seems like he got more positive attention from being a warrior in a fight to Red Hot Chimaev from like fame and sponsorship levels than he did fighting Kamaru Usman for the welterweight title. Is that what he kind of said without saying?
Sort of, in a way. I mean, it did blow him up. Like that whole thing had a strange effect on him. But I'm with you. Like I didn't realize that he internally had that. That he kind of got lost as a consequence of it. I'm not sure how you would describe it exactly, but whatever he said. But to your point, BC, like the dude has an unrelenting desire to be truthful to himself. To thine own self be true, and he really does. And I think that's why he succeeds for as long as he has, BC. It's because of his ability to not lie to himself, because that's how he gets better. That's how he understands his flaws. That's how he centers himself. This is what I mean, dude. Gilbert Burns, listen, Morales might beat him. Gun to my head, I'm going to pick him. But I think Burns is nobody's pushover, and I think Morales has his fucking hands full tomorrow night.
All right. Well, look, that 3-fight losing streak, we mentioned the names, right? The Bilal fight, if you want to try to revise history, he took it on extreme short notice and regretted it afterwards and wasn't full steam. Obviously, either was Bilal, but Bilal gutted it out and got the win. We already established against the current champion JDM, he was winning the fight. He was controlling him on the ground, a less refined version of JDM, but still. But Luke, you're only as good as your last fight. So if we can explain away to some degree those two losses, what do you say about the decision loss to Sean Brady? Did that show us that these odds are correct in your eyes, or was there just as much in that fight to say this guy still has it?
But Brady's such a different opponent.
Yeah.
Brady, like, look at Brady now. Brady is polished, experienced. He might be limited in certain ways because every fighter is. Not every fighter is, 100% strength in every direction. But, like, look at how well he can manage around. Look at how well he was able to apply his takedowns. And at first he couldn't get him. Then eventually he got them all. Look at how smooth and competent he is in those exchanges on the ground, like especially with that Leon fight, which you're asking about the Burns fight, but like in the Leon fight, like, dude, you're dealing with a very different kind of guy. Morales is not that, at least not that we've seen. Not that we've seen. So, I understand your nature of your question, but to me, between Brady and Morales, you're just dealing with, like, Burns is up against something very different between them. I don't think we should sleep on how skillful in certain capacities Morales can be, but I don't think we should look the other way on how green he is in other ones. It's hard for me to not see it on tape. It's quite apparent.
To maybe bring back that last topic for just one quick second, this division at welterweight is arguably the deepest, and it's in the standpoint of like fighters from 8 through 15 being, scary and legit and coming on. Do we need Makhachev right now when we already kind of bottlenecked at the top, meaning there's a bunch of fighters from Brady to Buckley if he beats Usman, to Gary, who are deserving-ish of titles? Is and if Morales wins this, he's going to make a leap in that conversation too. Do we need Islam in this right now, or is that complicating things?
Well, again, I mean, it would have been nice to have gotten the Ilia fight, I suppose. But what I will say is, putting that aside, I kind of love it that there's a bunch of guys. I mean, JDM is the man right now at 70. But, like, in your heart of hearts, are you firmly, without a shadow of a doubt, convinced he's the best 170er?
No, it might be Shavkat, who I didn't mention. Yeah, it might be Shavkat.
Yeah, so this is my point. You got a bunch of guys who you can decide who's who. And again, JDM's the man. But you got a bunch of guys right now who have, I think, a pretty credible claim to being the best welterweight in the world, including but not limited to Islam. Let them fight it out, brother. I'm all in favor of that. Let me see how that looks.
Well, Gilbert Burns believes he's actually not that far away from entering that title conversation and getting another chance at gold. Remember, he fought for the title once against teammate Kamaru Usman, dropped him in the first round before getting stopped. Let's hear from Gilbert one more time.
Acredito que sim, acredito que 2 vitórias ali eu tô no bolo. Todos os caras que eu perdi, né? Não perdi pra nenhum pangaré, assim, né? Falando, perdi pro Camaro, que é campeão, perdi pro Chimaev, que tá lutando pelo cinturão, perdi pro Belal, que virou campeão, pro Jack, que virou campeão, pro Sean Brady, que é number one contender ali. Eu luto contra todo mundo, então eu acho que isso aí que o UFC respeita também, vê isso aí também, mas vejo que eu tô no caminho, sabe? Tenho que retomar esse caminho da vitória ali, acreditar nos ajustes que eu tô fazendo, e não tá longe não, Gui. Eu acredito que ganhando bem do Morales, estou de volta no jogo, mais uma grande vitória aí, e vai ser que nem um filme, meu irmão. Imagina, Durinho campeão ali vira filme. Então, é meu trabalho agora acreditar que esse filme vai acontecer e que vamos trabalhar, vamos dar o máximo para isso acontecer. No ranking não move, mas eu também sei que isso não tem nada a ver. O Jack Madalena ali, quando me ganhou, ele virou top.
So, Luke, he would go on to say there in the translation from Portuguese for those listening, he explained away the 3 losses against all elite guys and the circumstances. And he says, I beat Morales. I'm one more win away from the title. And he said the ranking number won't matter. And he pointed out how Jack Della Maddalena at that moment was not the top contender. The seas just sort of parted perfectly for him. Seems ambitious given the traffic jam atop this division. Do you think he's right?
I don't. No, I don't think that. But he goes in there and blows the doors off Morales, and he gets another fight against, I don't know, Rachmanov.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Congratulations on the upset win. Here's Rachmanov.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I'll say this. Let me backtrack a little bit. It's possible. It's possible. I find it unlikely, but not out of the question. I just feel like, to the thing we've already raised, Buckley's on his way, Brady's on his way, Rachmanov's going to be back on his way, JDM's already here. Here comes Islam. You got to jump those guys in the queue, or at least stay steady with them. You got to do. I mean, it's do or die on Saturday, and anything short of that makes the question completely moot.
Well, if Morales wins at 25 years old, this would be, obviously, for the unbeaten fighter, the biggest win of his career. Yet another name that he's sort of packaging together of veterans that he would advance with. He would enter the larger title picture, the top 10, without a question here. And let's hear from Michael Morales. He's here to tell you, Luke, that he also hates Ian Gary. So let's hear from him on that.
Ian Gary being a backup over in Montreal, would he be the first call out that you would have after a win on Saturday? Would you call out on Ian Gary?
Reiteradas veces lo he pedido.
Listen, he's a great fighter and somebody that I've always looked into as an opponent. My understanding, he's no longer an undefeated fighter. That loss is there, but still a fighter that everybody puts up on top. And I think somebody that would be next. Obviously, we don't know who'll be fighting, but I love to wipe that smile off that face. But it would be somebody that, we consider for our next fight.
All right, Luke Thomas, it's time to go for it. You already teased that way. It seems like you're going Morales. We know that it could go either way. The odds are bloated. How does Morales get it done in your eyes?
Decision. I think he wins 3 out of 5. I think that he lands a big punch eventually. I think that he hurts Gilbert. He's going to be hard to take down. But I think his physical prowess will probably make the difference in the end. But it's going to be tough, man.
This is the first time he's going 5, Luke. He's done the 3-round distance 4 times. He's got a lot of early finishes in his 17-0 run up to this point. So we're going to learn a lot about the gas tank of Michael Morales, the adaptability, and whether a mistake could cost him in the end. Dang, I want to lean Gilbert here, Luke, but sometimes young legs, young hands, young power can just get it done. If Morales gets this done, even as a heavy favorite, it would say a lot about his fighting future. My heart's with Gilbert. Yeah, my bet's going to be with Gilbert. Give me Gilbert. Give me Gilbert one last time here, Luke. Wow. That's the way I'm going with this. To veteran his way through and figure it out. Asking a lot of him, but his back's against the wall. And you know about wounded animals, Luke, especially old Brazilian guys. They'll pull another win out of that satchel if you give them the opportunity. You know that's possible. In the co-main event, looks like our buddy Paul Craig is fighting for his job potentially here, Luke, when you're talking about the 37-year-old Scotsman who is on a 3-fight losing streak that extends back to having lost 5 of his last 6, dating back to 2022. Yet he's a betting favorite against Rodolfo Bellato, who is fresh off himself a draw with Jimmy Crute. And he's on a 4-fight winning streak before that, including his UFC debut when he ground and pounded Ihor Toporia. So Luke Thomas, as we speak right now, on the odds according to DraftKings, oh boy, I was wrong. I had it flipped. Excuse me for my mistake. Plus 410. Plus 410 is Paul Craig, rightfully, as the underdog. Minus 550 for Rodolfo Bellato. Luke, people criticize him for the Jimmy Crute draw, but Craig feels like he's on borrowed time. Is it win or go home for Paul Craig right here?
Well, the Crute draw was for Bellato.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. People have criticized him, which makes me think people believe Paul Craig's got a shot here. But
I mean, here's the thing, dude. Bellato is like Bellato, however you probably pronounce it. I mean, his stats do not necessarily inspire a ton of confidence, but they do at the same time. Let me tell you why. Strikes landed per minute, 6.28, just super high. It's like 2x the average rate. That's very, very high. Here's the problem. Strikes absorbed per minute, 6.31. That's like 3 times the normal level. Like, he takes a shit ton of damage. That's the first problem. However, BC, what I will say is his takedown defense is up to this point. Now, granted, it's a limited UFC resume, but up to this point has been 100%. So, It's good that Craig is back at 205. I think he's going to be more physical there, and I think he needs to be more physical there. But, you know, he just doesn't move his head a lot. Bellato throws a lot of punches. He's got good takedown defense, you know, but he's a donk and he can make mistakes. So I don't think it's out of the question for Craig to win. He's got a lot of fights that he should. I mean, dude, he fucking subbed Ankalaev for fuck's sake. Like he can get wins, but it's not looking great. It's not looking great.
Paul Craig spoke this week, and he believes it's just that. It's win or go home. We love him. He's a friend of the program, Luke. He's tore up many parts of UK from a woman's standpoint, Luke, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, a little bump and grind.
Let's not forget he stopped Jamal Hill, former champion, back in 2021. An aging Shogun Hua. He's done some things here, Luke. Let's hear him talk about needing one more to stay alive.
That move to middleweight at the time was a great idea. And after that victory against Andre Munoz in London was incredible. I didn't really get a chance to get running as a middleweight, but that's because I had 3 high-level opponents in front of me. I had Kyle Barallo, Brendan Allen, and Bo Nickel. So they're no slouches in this game, and to lose to them, it's not an embarrassment. But it's difficult to pick yourself up for 3 losses because this sport is about entertaining, and if you're not entertaining, you're not winning, then the UFC have no right to keep you. And I know that myself. I'm not under any illusion that a loss come Saturday night would potentially result in me not having a UFC contract on the Monday morning. So that for me is fire, and that's what I think I need. I do my best work when my back's against the wall and everybody's written me off. So that's why this fight is ideal for me. Move back up to light heavyweight, don't have to cut all that extra muscle mass, and it's game day for me.
Sadly, he is right. He does his best work in fights that he gets his ass kicked early and knocked down, and then he tends to pull out some miraculous move here, but his back is against the wall. I wish him well. We'll see what happens against Rodolfo here. Thank you, Zoe, for the support and love. Luke, when you look
let me ask you a question. How do Zoe and Reggie get along?
Reggie is the male alpha of the cat world in our family, 1 male, two females. So they get along well when he wants them to, but his go-to move is if anyone has found themselves a comfy sleeping spot, whether it be in front of the sun coming in, he'll go up, start to clean them, and then bite on their neck and their throat until they try to fight him off or inevitably run away. So she hates him for that. But if he's in the mood to be nice, she's the mother hen of the house. She's the OG. She'll show that love. You know what I mean?
Do they play hide the salami? What do they do?
No, they brawl. They brawl viciously.
Oh.
Reggie's an a-hole, and he has no head movement. He's like every MMA fighter. He just still sitting there, and the girls will light him up with shots, and he'll just turn his head and shake it off, and then pounce on them and bite their throat. You know, that's how he gets down. So he's a predator, that guy. Luke, can we look up and down the card? Okay, we got Sadiq Youssef riding a 2-fight losing skid, both against big names and elite fighters as he welcomes Myron Santos. Are you into that?
Yeah, that's actually a really fun contest. I think Long Island Luke, you were telling me the odds on this one are all wonky as well, correct?
Yeah, well, not that they're wonky, but I didn't think Sadiq would be a dog. He's plus 114 right now. I like him as a dog to get it done.
Yeah, I'm surprised by that as well. I think he has not had his best showing in quite some time, but I still think he's got pretty decent ability. It was a pretty good ability, actually. He's a good fighter. And Myron Santos, granted, he should not have won his last fight, but that was the guy he lost to was sort of wrestle boxer, which is not exactly what Sadiq is. So I think it's going to be a different kind of fight. Jared Gordon, Thiago Moises is fine. The one that's kind of interesting is Hyung-Sung Park, undefeated fighter, won road to UFC, I think the flyweight division. Yes. He looks somewhat limited and green, but ever developing and pretty good. He's taking on Carlos Hernandez. That should be a ton of fun. And obviously, Tisha Torres, previously now Tisha Pennington, kicks off the card against Luana Pinheiro. And Juicy J up against Melquizael Costa.
Dude, that's a banger. That fight's
That's a banger. So, like all these Apex cards, there's some bangers up and down there,
Yeah, it kind of is what it is the rest of the way on that card, Luke. So we'll take it. We'll be happy for a good main event. We'll see if Paul Craig can stay alive. And I don't know if you just saw on social media that Donald Trump basically threatened to deport Bruce Springsteen on his way back into the country if he doesn't keep his mouth shut. So that's interesting.
Oh, did he? Oh, all
yeah,
right.
yeah. He was like, we'll see what happens when he tries to get back in. We'll see what happens. So
That's fun.
We'll see if he ends up in El Salvador, the boss there, Luke. Topic number 5 to close this out is a quick little roundup of all things going on in boxing. And there's been some weird and wacky stuff this week. We did get the kickoff press conference for the June 28th Anaheim DAZN pay-per-view as Jake Paul welcomes former middleweight title holder Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. amid a lot of backlash from folks who believe that at 39, coming off of years of drug abuse and mental health challenges, that Chavez Jr. is a corpse of himself. The press conference was all about the theme, and with Julio Cesar Sr. next to him, that Jr. is training like never before to represent boxing and save his career against Jake Paul. Let's hear from Jake Paul on his stated goal for the future.
You've got a former champion sitting over here to the left with a big name. Does this signal to the boxing world that you're looking to get back on that championship path, the pursuit of a world title?
Yeah, look, I always said it. I'm going to fight really tough people, and I'm going to fight big money fights. You know, this is prize fighting. And so I'm giving the fans what they want with every single fight, taking on tougher opponents, and this is just that.
I can't help but notice it's a cruiserweight fight. The co-main event is a cruiserweight world title. If you look just to your right, there are 2 belts sitting there on the stage. Is it at all in your mind, if you beat Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., that a matchup with that man, Zurdo Ramirez, might not be far behind?
Yeah, 100%, man. This is what I came here to do, is become world champion and to create one of the greatest sports stories the world has ever seen. Going from Disney Channel to YouTube to world champion in 6 to 7 years, that's the most relatable and best sports story that any kid can get behind, and that's what I'm here to do, is inspire the next generation and do what no one's ever done before in the world's hardest sport, which is boxing.
You faced some hostile environments in the past, the Nate Diaz fight being one of them, but this might be the most hostile you've walked into. Southern California, 2 Mexicans on the card. What do you think about fighting in this type of atmosphere?
Man, the Mexicans love me, bro. Like, I'm stepping into my home environment. They love me more than they love this guy. You know, Mexico doesn't even claim him, so that's just the way it is. And I love my Mexican fans, and they've always been rocking with me since day one. And I'm gonna show him who the real Mexican warrior is.
Now, Luke, I know this fight, not for everybody, and there's a lot to criticize here. Interesting that Jake chose to play the heel in this and basically just pissed on Chavez Jr. the whole press conference for being drug addicted and not anything close to his prime. He also went after Senior and told him to shut the F up a bit. We only play this, though, for the bigger picture. Do you believe Jake is ready maybe to cash himself out, since he was willing to fight Canelo? He was willing to fight AJ. If he wins this and Zurdo wins in the co-main event against Uniel Dorticos, do you think we see this? Would you be fired up to see Jake Paul in a cruiserweight title fight against El Zurdo?
I'd be worried for Jake a little bit, if I could be honest with you. I mean, just sort of a question here, like, what is he attempting to prove here, or what can he really, actually not even what is he attempting? That's the wrong question, rather. The question is, what can he prove here? And I'm not speaking about him as an energizing force in boxing, particularly on the promotion side, but not merely that one, creating big events for the sport, having them domestically. I mean, these are things that, you know, sport does need right now on some level, for sure. But just in terms of like what is achievable, I mean, what is achievable is whatever he can turn it into, BC. But like, what is he actually proving with a win like this? Because I'm assuming he's going to get it. The answer is, listen, dude, you know, everybody who steps in there to a degree deserves respect. He certainly seems to like boxing a lot. I think he's done a lot of good for it. I really mean that. But like, what does this fight prove? It doesn't prove anything. There's a big argument to be made that JCC Jr. was never that great at all to begin with. Whatever you're getting now is just a completely hollowed out version of even that.
He was a weight bully at best in his prime. A weight bully at 160.
Yeah, weight bully at best.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the real three boxers that Jake Paul has fought, he lost to Tommy Fury. And then the other two were just like club level guys. You know, August, and I forget the other guy's name, Borland, I think was the other guy's name. Like, these are just club level fighters. Like, in terms of what he's actually proven and what can be proven, you know, it's fairly limited. Now, that's not to say, BC, that he can't win and turn it into something to the point you raise. He could fight Zurdo, I suppose, depending on how that goes. But like, dude, Zurdo would, I think, fucking do real
he would hammer
nasty shit to him.
He would hammer him.
Yeah. So it's like I don't, the Jake Paul equation, like when he first got into the sport, we were all like, oh, is this bad for boxing? I think we can definitively declare it's definitely not. Like, it's definitely not bad for boxing. In fact, net, Jake Paul is good for boxing. I think that's the reality, but I just don't want to do another media cycle where we're like pretending he's trying to achieve something that he can't or is even really on the table. There's just nothing to be said about this fight other than it might do well. It's good to have boxing in the States. It's another step in his career. And if people want to see it, they can go see it. But the sum total of it is no more than that.
I would have interest if he is going to go for it. Fight a real boxer, fight a guy your own weight. If he tries to fight for the cruiserweight unified title against Zurdo with the danger there and what we expect to happen, I'd give him credit and I would want to see it. This one, not so much, but Jake is also a promoter, Luke, and he made a lot of real big news once again this week, signing Savannah Marshall, who he's going to match against Shadeja Green in a super middleweight title unification on that July 11th Taylor Serrano card in New York City. He also signed Chantel Cameron, who had that 2-fight series with Katie Taylor and is a former undisputed champion, and then went inside 43-year-old boxing Hall of Famer Holly Holm, who he's going to debut on that Taylor Serrano 3 card against a 10-0 fighter who people are saying is absolutely legit, who he also signed. I don't hate these signings, Luke. Like, he's continuing to corner the market in women's boxing, and I think he's doing the right things in these areas. So
yeah, in that respect, I have nothing but nice things to say. I think he's doing his best to, there's a question about whether Holly Holm should still be fighting at 43, I think. But beyond that, like what he's doing for women's boxing, what he's doing for boxing more broadly, again, putting on shows domestically, he's doing stuff that a lot of these other boxers just don't and won't and will take a check to go do anything else. So I really, really respect that. It's just I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, wow, if he beats JCC Jr., this means a lot. It doesn't. It doesn't mean a lot. But I hope, that fans who attend and watch have a good time.
And thank you for Long Island Luke on all these weight updates. Everybody on the UFC Fight Night card is in and has made weight. So that card is all set on Saturday. Luke, we're also seeing a future fight tease here for Teofimo Lopez Jr. coming off of essentially that clean and clear wide unanimous decision victory over unbeaten Arnold Barbosa in Times Square. Teo followed it up with more N-word racism, Luke, to the level that the WBO is actually considering taking action against him. By the way, Berlanga dropped the N-word like crazy at the press conference yesterday too. Maybe it's in New York City.
This is the age for stupid men to say slurs, so welcome to it.
All right. But the idea of him moving up to welterweight and taking on the best in show at the moment, which is unified champion Jaron Boots Ennis, has to make you fired the hell up. It's being discussed for July. Here's Eddie Hearn after yesterday's Ring Magazine press conference.
So we are talking, we're in negotiations for Jaron to fight Teofimo. And it's a hell of a fight. And Jaron, you heard His Excellency, he said it there, and this is just the last 48 hours. So Jaron's been chilling out. There is a date in August that we could be looking at in Saudi Arabia, but we weren't really expecting to fight in August, if I'm honest. We was expecting to fight in September, October. We have a mandatory challenger in Shakram Girsov who stepped aside for the Stanionis fight, but I believe there's a conversation to be had there. And I've got a call with Jaron and Everett and the team and Bozy in about an hour to see if that's something we want to do. I will say there is still the conversation about 47-54. It is inevitable, the move. But I feel like the Teofimo fight is a great fight, and I think that's a great option for him. So, listen, I honestly think that he's just too big and too good. But I rate Teofimo. But when we did the weigh-in here, Teofimo stood on the scales about 6 hours, 8 hours into hydrating. He was about 146 pounds. Barbosa was about 157. Right? I don't think he's a big 140, Teo. Wait till you see Boots on the night in there, hydrated, fit, healthy, and he's a hell of a fighter. Listen, it's a great fight for boxing, but I don't see anybody beating Boots Ennis 147, 154, 160 right now.
Eddie, what's your prediction for Shiraz versus Oliveira?
It's a great fight.
Luke, shout out to Luke Backman Sports, the up-and-coming boxing journalist, for getting that sound there. Teo did ask for the fight immediately after the Barboza one, making what did they make? A weird Boots Dora the Explorer.
I'm Dora the Explorer, and I'm looking for boots.
Yeah. Do you align with Eddie here that Teo might be too small? Because it's a great fight. It's such a great
I mean, I'm curious. I'll say this, BC. Boots versus Brian Norman or Boots versus Teofimo. I'll take Teo. Okay. Not to win, but I'm saying as a choice between the two opponents.
Brian Norman's good. I can't wait to see him in big fights, dude.
Yeah, fair. No, I'm not saying it's some kind of scrub ass fight. I'm just saying like the Lopez factor looms like he's a wild card. And one more time, I mean, granted, Barboza didn't have the most electrifying performance, but if anybody of the 6 fighters on that Fatal Fury card in Times Square looked good, it definitely was Lopez. Now, he does appear to be a, he doesn't have the most racially enlightened views I've ever heard, but he is a good boxer. So,
and yesterday they did have that press conference to formally announce the Saturday, July 12th Ring Magazine #3 card. It comes one night after Taylor Serrano 3 on Netflix from MSG. This time it's going to be at the tennis stadium in Queens near the old Shea Stadium there near Citi Field. It's not the Arthur Ashe Stadium with the dome that they use for the U.S. Open final. It's one of the stadiums in that complex, and the early AI pictures make it look pretty gnarly as a potential venue. But Luke, at the press conference, Wade Plemons was the host for DAZN, and Turki Al-Sheikh called in and basically pushed himself to be on speakerphone to the microphone and basically challenged everyone on the card to not put forth the stinker that they did in Times Square, because there's a ton of big matchups to be made. Let's see this.
For the boxing, Shakur, one of the greatest fighter, bound now in the world. Shiraz is the ambassador, and Shakur, both of them is the ambassador of Riyadh season. Shiraz is looking to have a big performance in America, and watching the result of Crawford and Canelo, Berlanga want to put very big statement in the first card with us. Zubaida have a lot of options. We have the Latinos night. We have a big fight preparing now in Mexico. This is important card. And the last request for Mr. Versace, this belt, we change it. We now want the new version, please. Try to have the new version from the factory in England.
So Mr. Versace is Rick Reno, who's going to get the new Ring Magazine belt. The co-main events there, the double main event, is Berlanga against Khamzat Shiraz at super middleweight. And then, of course, Shakur Stevenson defending the title against Zepeda. Luke, he did announce that Boots could be next for Teo. He did announce a few other things on there. It was weird for him to call in like that and try to put the pressure on everybody. But I got to be honest, a lot of the ring stuff has been weird lately, including Rick Reno's clothes, but shout out to that guy. Luke, quickly, we're running out of time here, but Turkey also moved the dates on Bud Canelo, which has got a lot of people talking about whether he's setting a smoke screen, lying to the media. What the hell's going on?
Let's just say this very quickly, BC. For folks who missed it, a report came out from Mike Coppinger, formerly of ESPN, now the Ring Magazine, saying, one, that now you were going to get Canelo versus Crawford not on that Friday night, but the Saturday night, which, by the way, would make it go head-to-head with UFC 320. So you're like, okay, that's weird, because now Dana White's supposed to be ostensibly promoting both, and that now it was a Riyadh season and a pay-per-view rather than being like a Netflix, well, not free, but free through your Netflix subscription. So it's like, what the hell is happening? You're moving dates. It's not on Netflix. Is it even TKO anymore? Like, what is happening here? Then maybe a day or two later, Lance Pugmire of Boxing Scene put out a report from an industry insider saying, well, no, that's all misdirection. Now, we don't know what's about to happen here. I guess we have to wait and see, but let's just be very, very clear about this. There's already been a situation with the Ring where they put out information that Turkey admitted was knowingly false. But situations.
There's the weird Dougie Fisher war that they had, and then there's the time he lied to try to sign Canelo.
Okay. Now, if you have Mike Coppinger playing ball with this, you don't have, and I don't know if they are, we'll see. I'm not declaring it happened. But if it turns out that this was a smokescreen, you do not have any obligation to take anything the Ring Magazine says seriously at face value, nor anybody associated with that brand, including Dougie Fisher, including Mike Coppinger, and frankly, including anybody else who's got a byline there. They cannot be trusted in that event. Lying to the public is a red line you just simply cannot cross. That would be, to me, 3 strikes and you're out. So
yeah, I mean, either way this goes, this is a big story, whether this is another smokescreen Turkey using the Ring magazine to lie. I think a lot of people are already of that same belief that when they're talking about their own events, you can't necessarily trust them, or when they're talking about others because of Turkey admitting to lying to sway everybody on the Jake Canelo negotiations. So that's interesting. But the other side of it is, does this mean he's not working with TKO anymore? Does this mean the Netflix thing isn't happening? This obviously means it's not going to be at Allegiant Stadium because UNLV football has the Saturday night booked. The Raiders have Sunday booked for that weekend. So I think the most interesting thing is you're not going head to head with this, with the Noche. I mean, what the hell's going on here, Luke? It's just weird, man. It's just weird. It's weird that that got announced and then there's been no follow-up. There's been no, like, what does this mean? Like,
yeah, I'm waiting to see how I'm going to keep my mouth shut to wait and see how it goes. But if it goes a bad way, I'm going to make sure everyone hears about it.
Yeah, yeah. So that was your boxing roundup. And oh, by the way, if you want to continue to stay fired up about boxing, Shakur Stevenson, by the way, is talking about moving up to 154 or 147 to face Conor Benn there. Conor Benn wants it at 154. And speaking of Conor Benn, who's fresh off of that fantastic performance in a loss at middleweight to Chris Eubank, one Conor Benn of the UK fame has sat down with Akin Barak of Ring Champs, fresh off of his mega fight with Eubank Jr. Ben chats about growing up as the son of a boxing legend, his beef with Eubank Jr., what's next, and much more. Check out the full interview of Conor Benn with Akin Barak on the Ring Champs YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Luke, it's time to turn it to the fans here. morningcombat@gmail.com is your entry point. Tell Mikey we said hi, or that you did. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you this right now. It's time to hear from the fans. First, we go to trial for things we said. Were we wrong? Were we dead wrong? You better have a timestamp, and you better have brought some balls with you. Let's go. Dead wrong.
Dead wrong.
All right, Luke, we had like 5 people write in about how dead wrong BC was this week. One of them being Oscar, the producer of the podcast, The Crack, with Pete Carroll of Unfound fame. And he said at 1 hour, 33 minutes on Monday's show, BC said that Paul Hughes' fight with the PFL last weekend took place in Dublin. That was dead wrong.
Belfast,
it was a homecoming fight for Hughes in Belfast, Northern Ireland, a different country, although it's all the same, right? BC, wink, wink. Thank you, Oscar, for the submission. Shout out to Sean, Eoin, Joe, Ghazi, and everybody else who burned me the same.
So my understanding is Eoin is pronounced Owen.
It's probably pronounced like Rachel or something, knowing them. I mean, you know,
that also might be true.
Aaron, go bra. I mean, lose the bra already, would you? Shout out.
You can't keep making that joke. I mean, no, there is no bigger sign you're a dad other than the Just for Men shoe polish fucking dye job you got going. Then, hey guys, Aaron, go bra, or maybe not.
It's a playoff of the old Dice Clay joke, but I will say, Luke, shout out to the Irish. I'm 1/8 of, even those in Southern Ireland. And sorry, you're right, Belfast, Northern Ireland. We're not talking about Dublin here. I was wrong. Great crowd, by the way. So I'm dead wrong.
The Irish always bring it.
Our second and final dead wrong comes from Ethan. He says on the Monday, May 12th episode, Luke Thomas says that there are 172 games in an MLB season. Hey, Luke, it's actually 162. This was at 2 hours and 3 minutes of the show. Take that out, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, that's still 161 too long. Let's just be honest about it.
It's like, hey, great job with the pitch clock and speeding up MLB broadcasts. There's still 162 games.
I know.
I mean, the NBA at 82, I never thought I would say this when people used to complain. Now I'm at the age where I'm not diehard every week. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think we need 82 games. Let's go like 50 games.
We
and
don't
then get
need
into the
82 games at all. Another thing too is I go to like 15, maybe 20 Nats games a year just because I have a friend who is able to get me affordable tickets. It is a difference now when you go to see how quickly the games go. But Jesus Christ, dude, they're playing forever in the calendar year. It's insane how long it is.
And they're never going to give that up, man, because of the money they make in the stadium for the TV rights, you know, all of that. But could you imagine in NBA if they did it shorter? We didn't have load management. You know what I'm saying? I mean, man up. Manage your loads like a
Yeah,
real
take
man.
some
all
fucking
right?
steroids and get back out there, you
Yeah,
hoes.
please. Thank you. Get the greenies. Get the leaded coffee. Thank you. Our final fan submission segment is a fan segment where you submit your tight t-shirt pics, your artwork. Yeah, this one's called fan subs.
You've got mail.
Viewers.
My God, Dawn and Jay Paquette, the boss lady herself, JP from Nova Scotia. Mount Unike is back on this program, Luke. He says, Dawn and Jay say, good luck, a good day, Luke, BC, Mikey, and MK Nation and Long Island Luke. Your 2022 Kodonk of the Year, Old Man Washed POS, Jay Paquette, recently turned 50 years old. Dawn, the boss lady, and I flew up to Ontario with my brother and sister-in-law, and we were hosted by MK fan and my non-related brother, Chef Mark Paquette, at his amazing establishment, the Cast Iron Kitchen. Mark prepared an impressive private chef's table menu, and wow, it did not disappoint. Luke, you are 100% correct. Getting old sucks, and everything starts hurting after 40, and even more so at 50. Message to all your younger donks. Form good, healthy habits early. Treat yourself and your health like a gift, because it certainly is. Much love and hope everyone out there is doing well. P.S. from Dawn and Jay. Appy, quit hiding in your basement and get back into the game. Bring your worst. I'm waiting. LOL. Luke, your thoughtful, nice wishes to a 50-year-old Jay Paquette.
Man, look at that photo. That's incredible, bro.
Look at everybody's wearing our merch, dude.
I know. I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I am just so grateful. Happy birthday. Shouts to all these kind folks. First of all, getting together for each other, but then also kind of getting together and taking for us, essentially. I'm humbled. That's
It's
awesome.
great that there's Chef Mark Paquette, unrelated, who lives in Nova Scotia and is also an MK donk, or maybe he lives in Ontario. Yeah, there it is. And they connected. So shout out to those two guys.
That's super cool.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, JP and Dawn. Let's go over to Miguel. He says, "What's up, guys? Longtime viewer. I'd like to get Luke's take on my tat." Oh boy, Luke.
I'm looking.
I mean, it pops.
Definitely pops.
That's like a superhero sleeve right there. Damn.
It's not a sleeve.
It looks like an NBA shooting sleeve, Luke, right?
I mean, here's what I'll say. I definitely think it pops. I definitely think this is what you would call new school. Yeah, that's what you would call new school. Definitely not for me, but I do think it's done pretty dang well. So if this was what you wanted off the stencil, the guy or the lady who did it did a great job. I'll say that. I don't like insulting people's tattoos unless they're like bad, and that's not a bad tattoo at all whatsoever. It's a good tattoo. It's just I could never wear something like that.
I understand that. Shout out to Miguel for getting that and taking the chance, Luke, making you be honest about it. I like the colors; they pop. This looks a little crazy on the hand, though. I'm not a big hand tat guy, but I'm also
I am
not
a big hand tattoo guy, but you know.
I know. Let's keep it going here. Kim Bong the third says Long Island Luke and Gaff are the Bong Island boys. Wow.
Oh, are they gonna smooch? Do y'all smooch on that show?
They got accused of doing more than smooching to each other for money, Luke. I don't know if you saw them at that weird MMA press conference yesterday.
No, I don't need to know.
Yeah, you don't need to know. You don't need to know. That's hilarious. Thank you, Kim Bong. Shout out to Gaff, by the way, long time friend of the program, one half of
MK Tattoo.
Yeah, indeed. Alan W here. He's got a weekend at Bernie's thing that's probably going to be awesome. Oh my God. Dude, Alan W, talented gentleman.
I just want to say this is kind of creepy because he made like an AI version of me. Like that's not even me.
Yeah, I mean that's also halfway me. First of all, it's a weirder chin, and also my hair is not that brown.
Wow, I look young and muscular there and hip. Look at that. But yeah, after 3 margaritas, it becomes weekend at Luke's.
I mean, this is once again what you know. What can I say? I earned it.
Alan W. also says, in a move to improve PFL Smart Cage's ability to measure punch and kick speed, Don Davis upgrades the Smart Cage with 100,000 NVIDIA H200 GPUs, making it sentient. After years of backhand comments and abuse, PFL Smart Cage, who now identifies as they, them, conquers humanity and assimilates BC and LT in perpetuity on Mondays and Fridays. Morning Kombat sings the praises of PFL Smart Cage. Obey your Smart Cage, Overlord. Wow, Luke. Wow.
How is BC the T1000? And Like, this motherfucker's not the upgrade.
BDE, baby. Okay, and a lot of it. By the way, I saw a Connecticut license plate with BDE on it the other day. Amazing stuff, you know.
Did you hear the Connecticut, the Mohegan Sun might sell the
Sun? Yeah, the WNBA team.
They might sell the team.
Dang. Good.
Also,
shit
that thing that they just made is fucking insane and incredible. Like, job well done. Look at that shit.
Well done.
That's amazing.
That is great stuff. Our final fan sub submission is from an all-timer in these parts. Luke, you're wearing his magic right now. It's Average Joe Art. And he says, hey, BC and LT, Mikey, and Long Island Luke, wanted to share some artwork I came up with while on a morning walk with my dogs last week. I'm hoping to give my beloved fan subs a shot in the arm since I've been a few weeks skipped due to lack of submissions. While I know this isn't dudes in tight t-shirts, elder abuse, or 9/11 jokes, I hope everyone enjoys them just the same.
Holy shit balls.
Morning Combat presents 1, 2, 3 margaritas.
So this is the count?
This is the count from Sesame Street doing the 1, 2, 3 margaritas. But what does it say underneath it? Oh, with Luke Thomas. That is so good.
God. And look, you can see the margarita over the numbers, you know?
Yeah.
Oh
just
my
combining
God.
Sesame Street with MK Glory right there. And secondly, he says, what's the second one here?
Brian Campbell's technical thriller.
Oh, God, that's so good.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my
Look
God,
at
that's great on a t-shirt, by the way. Wow. Okay. Joe says I have a long list of MK ideas, and it's always good to scratch a few off. I also wanted to thank you guys for sharing that photo of my dog Bagel that passed away a few weeks ago. It makes me happy knowing that everyone got to see her smile. Your 2023 reigning and defending Donk of the Year, Average Joe R. Dude, that thriller one is badass. I need that on a t-shirt.
That's
Can you show that one
amazing.
more time? That's so good. Damn.
Yeah,
look at that.
dude, that looks
One Love
that
hat.
looks to me.
Oh man, Morning
That's
Combat
like the
at
last
Gmail.
thing you see if you're a hot dog at 7-Eleven.
Indeed. There it is. There's the Luke 3 margaritas. Well done, folks, on stepping up the fan subs part of this game. I thank you. Morning Combat at gmail.com. You can check out Long Island Luke's podcast this weekend, the Made Card Minute. Luke Nocita, thank you for playing. You got anything to say?
Yeah, tune in. Full card
Yeah,
watch along. Be there.
Yeah, that's
be
all we
square.
got. All right.
Yeah,
All right,
be
great. For LT on BC, I got to go interview Eddie Hearn, but I forgot to throw to the clip. So one more time, don't forget to check out Connor Ben on Ring Champs with Ak and Barack on the All the Smoke Fight Network. You can check out the Ring Champs YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. And here's a little snippet of Ak and Barack sit down with Connor Ben as we throw it to the exits. Thank you for watching. This has been Morning Combat.
When you saw that moment and the crowd was going wild.
Yeah, I thought certified GOAT.
Yeah? Yeah.
Certified GOAT. I was so happy.
Really?
I was staring at the screen. I've gone, as if, no way. He's turned up. I was so happy.
So you felt something good about
I was
that?
happy. I was happy. But I knew I should be feeling happy about this. But I was sitting there going, because...
You can relate.
I could relate. I get it. Come on. I was like, come on.
Did you think it would help him in the fight?
No, it ain't gonna help him in a fight.
No, it's like psychologically.
No. Because as soon as you get your first punch in the
Or like goes out the window.
Yeah, you're not.
Did you think he was gonna open that shirling that he was wearing, that coat? He had
and
full suit underneath. Because he was holding something, I thought, underneath it.
He's bizarre. He's just bizarre. It's like, is it part of his eccentric behaviour? But I'm just watching him and going, come on. Like, you're there. You did it. We did it. Because it was just a mission to try and get him there. And, after all the articles that were being said at the first press conference, I was like, yeah, your dad don't like you. And, speaking about, how much his dad don't like him. And then as things started unfolding, where seniors started coming out saying, yeah, you're a disgrace, I thought, yeah.
It's never going to happen.
But then the last press conference, I didn't even want to
mention
talk on it.
You didn't want to mention it? You feel like it's going too far now?
I don't want to talk on it. People ask me in interviews.
Before it was mind games, but then it's like, no.
Yeah, people are going, then what do you think about you? I said, I really don't talk about it. Like, it ain't my place to talk now. Like, this has gone too far now, where it's like, it's not about that.
All the Smoke fighters headed to the Hall of Fame. That's right. This year's International Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend in boxing's hometown, Canastota, New York, takes place from Thursday, June 5th through Sunday, June 8th, ending with an annual ceremony immortalizing boxing's all-time greats.
The International Boxing Hall of Fame are hosting fan events and experiences all weekend long. On Friday night, June 6th, Salida Promotion will present a terrific fight card in association with All the Smoke Fight, live on the Zone from the Turning Stone Resort Casino in Ramona, New York. Featuring USBA heavyweight champion Brandon Moore, defending his title against undefeated prospect Stanley Wright in the main event. Plus a stacked undercard featuring world champion Franchon Fouz-Dezern and rising prospects JJ Pagan and Devell Smith.
Sounds to me, we're going to have a great fight night. And of course, Sunday, the ceremony to induct the class of 2025. Legends like Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao, Michael second to none, and the Tasmanian Devil, Vinny Paz.
Join All the Smoke Fight and Salida Promotion at Turning Stone Resort Casino for this year's International Boxing Hall of Fame induction weekend.
Hey, listen, visit turningstone.com for accommodations and tickets to Friday's fight night. Visit ibhof.com for the full induction weekend schedule.